My mom, 55F, and I, 25F, are in a massive fight over my fiancé. For some quick background info, my mom and I were in a pretty bad car accident in GA in 2019 that gave her a traumatic brain injury and damaged her frontal lobe, decision-making, emotional regulation, logical thinking. She moved to AZ about 6 months later, was doing fine, then the pandemic hit and she was made homeless. I was in college at the time and in no position to up and leave, so we helped my younger brother, 20M at the time, move out to AZ to help her. Fast forward 4 years, and it has been a series of disasters for them. I have helped where I can, but they've been royally screwed by individual people, the insurance companies, by advocacy groups, and by mental health facilities. Well, she came to GA to visit for the first time since she left and is staying for a month. She doesn't know my fiancé very well, since we started dating after she had left, and they've only interacted on one family beach trip, which went poorly, and when we moved my brother out west. She hates the fact that his family has different political views than ours, never mind that he is very aligned to our beliefs, it's his family that's the problem. She also believes that he wants to isolate me from my family in an attempt to become emotionally abusive. She thinks that our future children will grow up to be hateful, racists, and that I will end up a battered woman. She has her own trauma related to abusive men, physical, emotional, the works, and I know that any aggression, perceived or real, is hard for her to handle. During a discussion, my fiancé made a comment about how his mom had said she wanted to be put in a home if she were ever unable to take care of herself, and my mom flew off the handle in a rage about how he wanted to put her in a home and how he was attacking an older, disabled woman and that made him an abuser. The fight ended badly with her walking out of the house, swearing that she would leave and never come back. She screamed hateful things about my fiancé, about me, and about how I was re-traumatizing her by not defending her against him. That was yesterday, and after talking to my best friend and my work family, I am realizing that I need to establish some boundaries with her. It hurts me, it hurts him, and it hurts the relationship between my mom and I when she screams insults at him and about him. She keeps saying she won't make me choose between them, but that if I want to be with him, my family will hate him forever and will never even be in the same room as him or his family again. Has anyone else ever been in a situation where they had to contemplate cutting ties with a parent? I don't want to cut her out, but she is causing me so much stress, and she is actively driving a wedge in my relationship with my fiancé. Am I just being a young, naive girl in love? Or does this behavior seem irrational? Yes, I know she has a brain injury and is already irrational to some degree, but this seems like way more than that, to anyone else. My family is small, just me, my mom, and my younger brother at this point, and I feel like I'm in an impossible situation where I either lose my fiancé or my mom and brother. Literally any advice is appreciated. I wouldn't be on Reddit unless I was desperate. TLDR, my mom despises my fiancé, refuses to accept his presence in my life, and is now forcing me to choose between them. Comments by users. Commenter 1. Her emotional state is highly impacted by her brain injury. Her quick emotional escalation is practically textbook. Some of this stuff doesn't heal, it becomes lifelong. So definitely don't throw away a relationship because your mom has an impaired brain. Who knows what she would think of the next one anyway. Commenter 2. I can't believe you allowed her to treat your fiancé that way. If this were a man allowing his mom to treat his wife that way, all hell would break loose. If you want a happy marriage, set her straight and make her behave. If she refuses, cut contact. I've cut contact with my crazy parents. I have no regrets. My life has so much less drama. Constant drama can ruin you mentally and physically. Commenter 3. She is saying she won't make you choose between them, but she will hate him forever. So she has made her own choice. Live your life. If she refuses to visit, it's her choice. If she refuses to come to your wedding, it's her choice. If she refuses to meet any future grandchildren, it's her choice. All you can do is be ready to welcome her back with open arms if she decides to be more reasonable. But you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that may never happen, and be aware that if you ever decided to choose your mother instead of your fiancé, she would probably find something she hated about every man you met and you'll be alone until she dies. Update. I, 25F, have been engaged to my fiancé, 27M, for just over 2 years, and we dated for nearly 3 years before he proposed. We set a wedding date back when we got engaged, but postponed it because my family was going through a rough patch and it didn't feel right at the time. We are now aiming for April 2025, venue is booked and everything. However, my mom despises my fiancé. She says that he has warning signs of an emotional abuser, he is selfish and wants to keep me to himself, and that he is going to turn me into a helpless housewife to just pop out babies for his southern, racist family. For clarification, I am a kindergarten teacher, currently pursuing my master's degree, and have exactly zero plans to have kids in the next 5 years, which he agrees with. He is an electrical engineer, also pursuing a master's degree, and does not agree with his family's conservative beliefs. She lives across the country and recently came to visit for a month. It ended badly. I mean screaming fights, storming out of the house, and crying until 2 a.m., all of which culminated in me driving her to the airport 2 weeks early. She swears she will never step foot back in the state for any reason, and she refuses to be in a room with my fiancé or his family ever. Well, while she was here, I didn't get a chance to tell her that we are planning to go through with the wedding, things are booked, etc. I fully intended to, but with all the fighting and turmoil, I didn't have a chance. Now, my fiancé and his family are asking questions about where we're at in the wedding planning process, and I'm really torn about how to answer. On the one hand, we could reschedule the entire thing and I could work with my mom to get her to agree to come. On the other hand, we could go through with the wedding, but I would have exactly 0 family members present. I desperately want my mom to be there, but I don't know if she'll ever come to terms with my fiancé's existence and importance in my life. And I'm not sure I want to keep postponing the wedding because she's not ready for me to get married yet. So, would I be the asshole if I do go through with it? Extra, my mom does have a TBI, which affects her emotional regulation. She has had the TBI since before I started dating my fiancé, so he never met her beforehand. Despite the brain injury, she swears that she is being perfectly reasonable and that as an older woman who has dated a lot more than I have, just the one, and has known abusive men, that I should trust her implicitly and leave him. Info, everyone has been asking, so here are some of the warning signs that she says are emotionally abusive. He wouldn't leave me alone with her while she was here visiting. She is referring to the fact that while we would talk in the evenings, he was always in the room. Because we talked in the living room of the small house where we live. Never mind that he literally stayed out of the house for 2 days, so we could hang out together, just my mom and I. He does not encourage a strong bond between my mom and I. She means that he has not pushed me to go visit my mom and brother across the country, even when they needed help. My reasoning is that I don't actually want to go across the country very often, so even when he asks me if I want to, the answer is usually no. He is gay and using me as a beard. She is referring to the fact that years ago, before we even started dating, I made an offhand comment about how people thought that the new server might be gay. We worked in a restaurant with lots of liberal college kids, and straight people were the minority, so we kind of assumed everyone was LGBTQ+ unless told otherwise. I was obviously wrong, as we have been together for 5 years with no issues in the bedroom and many conversations about the facets of sexuality. He encourages me to lie to her. I lied about going on a trip to Puerto Rico, entirely by my own choice, and despite multiple warnings by him and my beat friend that it would end poorly. It did end poorly, and she does not trust me anymore, which is a separate issue. But again, my choice to lie. He actively told me it was a bad idea, and I didn't listen. Comment. My family broke apart almost 10 years ago when my grandma died, and all I have left are my mom and younger brother. My side of the aisle would just be my best friend, a few close friends, and some friends from work. Unfortunately, she lives in a city with subpar medical care, especially when she has state disability insurance, which covers virtually nothing. I usually would agree with you about people not saying someone is abusive just because. However, my mom has been abused by many men over the years, one of whom was my biological father. It's one of those situations where I can't tell if she's saying it because she's seen it firsthand and recognizes the signs, or if she's saying it because she's seen it so many times and now sees it everywhere. It was a fight between my mom and my fiancé, because she asked him what he would do if his mom had been beaten, raped, and made homeless, which is what happened to her a few years ago. Post-TBI, she is no longer homeless, obviously. He responded that his mom had asked to be put in a home if she couldn't take care of herself. He meant it innocently enough, but she has a deep-rooted fear of mental health facilities and homes for disabled people, so it sparked terror in her. She was furious with me for not defending her against my fiancé because he was abusing her and triggering PTSD of when her father used to physically abuse her and her mom didn't defend her. Literally, no one else has any concerns about him. My best friend actually lived with us for 3 years while we were dating and then engaged, and she only ever has good things to say about him. I've known her since middle school, I know her family well, and I fully trust her to tell me if I'm being an idiot or need to dump his ass. Plus, her parents are very rational and haven't raised any red flags, even going so far as to invite me and my fiancé to their beach house for a week and a half. None of my co-workers, who have all met him repeatedly, have any concerns. It's just my mom and brother, who have actually only been in his presence for less than 2 months total. My biological father was abusive, and when he lost parental rights, I lost my paternal family because they were all on his side. My maternal family exploded almost 10 years ago, when my grandma died. My aunts and uncle turned on my mom, my cousins sided with their parents, and my mom wrote them all off for good. It's just been my mom, my brother, and I for most of our lives, but there is literally no one else who shares a blood relation with us that we still talk to. She actually has only met his mom and brother once, on a family beach trip 4 years ago. The trip was awkward, but nothing that should linger this long. She's basing most of her assumptions on the fact that they're from a small town in South Carolina, and he's the first to be college educated in his family. The instances I was referring to were times that my mom called me in the middle of the night because of a crisis, expected me to drop everything, and be at her side to solve the problem. Emotionally, I understand where she was coming from because she needed help and wasn't able to do it herself. Logically, however, it simply isn't always possible. I am a teacher of small children, with the pay of a small child, and I can't simply fly across the country every time something goes wrong. It is a logistical nightmare for teachers to get time off for even regular things, like doctor's appointments, so I can't just up and leave for unknown lengths of time. I am always supportive over the phone, and I coordinate with my brother to make sure she gets help. I do my best from where I am, and I'm not saying I've made all the right choices, but I do resist the idea that I am at my mom's beck and call for every crisis, just because she decided to move across the country to a place with no support system. That is definitely part of her concern. However, my mom is an extrovert, or was, before the TBI, so she has a hard time understanding why I, an introvert, don't have a billion friends. She blames my fiancé and says he is isolating me on purpose to control me, but the truth is that we're both just introverts who prefer a smaller circle of friends. I'm very close with my people, there's just not a lot of them. Update 2. A little background, we have had Life 360 on our phones for years, since my mom was a single mom and my brother and I got home from school before she did. It's never been a problem, because she checks it for peace of mind, knowing where her kids are. Now, she lives across the country with my brother, and I am in a different state. She has a brain injury and still looks at my location a lot, since I'm not great at answering texts all the time. My mom is in her 50s, I am 25, my brother is 23. Last Christmas, I turned off my Life 360 because I was going on a trip to Puerto Rico that I knew she wouldn't approve of. I lied about it when my brother asked why it was turned off, my mom caught me in the lie, and it blew up our relationship pretty badly because she felt like she couldn't trust me. I am well aware that I was the asshole in that part of the situation. I shouldn't have turned it off, and I definitely shouldn't have lied. However, nearly a year has passed, our relationship is still very rocky, and recently we are on the outs about my upcoming marriage. She doesn't approve and doesn't want it to happen, but I'm still doing it. She has started using my location against me, calling and starting fights whenever I spend time with my soon-to-be in-laws, asking why I'm leaving the house in the evenings, or what my plans are on the weekend that require me to drive an hour away from home. About 2 weeks ago, she and my brother turned off their locations and told me they were going to walk into the desert and unaliving themselves. I panicked, called the cops, and it turns out it was all a cry for help. They were sitting at home, totally fine. Well, I turned off my location out of anger and frustration. The thinking was, if they were going to turn theirs off to lie to me, then they didn't need to know my every move anymore. My brother texted me a couple days ago, asking me to please turn my location back on so they can know when I'm home. I am reluctant, because I am still angry and hurt by their words and actions, and it has honestly been pretty freeing to know that my mom can't sabotage my days out by calling and starting fights when I leave the house. I know that she does look at my location for peace of mind, remember, brain injury, very emotional, very anxious. I also feel that at 25, in a different state, I should have a certain level of privacy from my mom. She does not need to know my every move. But I did turn it off once before, and that ended up causing a huge pile of mistrust and lies, and I don't want to do that again either. So would I be the asshole if I keep it turned off? Or should I do what they want and turn it back on? Update 3. For some background, my mom and I were decently close growing up, but she moved to Arizona when I was a junior in college, and our communication has suffered a lot. There are other circumstances that have led us here, but the gist is that I don't want to talk all the time. I do not have the social battery to talk to her every single day after school. I am a kindergarten teacher. I usually aim for once-a-week updates and check-ins. However, my mom is a very social person and has a hard time understanding how I can care about her when I just don't talk to her. She says that it feels like I am ignoring her, that I don't care enough about her life, and that this isn't a healthy relationship. She says that I should be able to communicate more regularly with people that I love. I am stuck and struggling with how to move forward, because the fact is, she is draining. Our phone calls are several hours long and so incredibly exhausting, and I don't want to force myself through that just to maintain a relationship with her. Then again, she is my mom, and relationships take work on both sides. Do I make myself suffer through more frequent phone calls, or is it okay to not talk to someone, especially a mom, that frequently? Am I missing something about how communication should work between a mother and daughter? I am self-diagnosed autistic and my mom chooses not to believe me, because she thinks it's an out for me not handling things I should. Update 4. So we got married. A lot of y'all told me to go through with it, and after a lot of thought, we did. When my mom left in October, we were in a bad place, and we were having a lot of really awful phone calls and screaming fights. I was desperate to do something, and I finally found a therapist who helped me process some of the things that happened between my mom and I and my role in things. In the months leading up to the wedding, my mom continued to scream at me over the phone and make threats about choosing him or her and how she hoped I wasn't the kind of girl who got rid of her family to please a man who would end up leaving her anyway. She was downright hateful, and I spent a lot of time crying over our relationship, because I couldn't believe we had gotten to this point. Even with knowing that some of her deregulation was because of the brain injury, I just couldn't believe my own mom would threaten me, call me a cunt, and tell me that I wasn't allowed to be upset with her because she had been traumatized her whole life. We got married in April, and my mom and brother did not attend. I was able to reconnect with my mom's cousin, who I used to be close with as a child, and she and her family came to the wedding. I had my best friend, her family, and my work family there to support me. A close friend performed the ceremony. Plus, of course, my husband's family was very supportive. There were times I missed my mom, and I wanted to see her smile in the audience, but I was ultimately glad that she wasn't there. I would have felt like I had to perform and cater to her every whim, and I am so glad I was able to just have a lovely day with all the people who came to celebrate with us. Just to reaffirm my feelings about her not being there, my mom did not contact me at all on the day of and only called me a week later to ask whether I would be sharing any pictures with her. I did send her a few, because I thought a small part of her might care, but all she did was comment on how it looked like a cheap Amazon wedding. She hoped I was happy with my shitty choices and that they were worth the loss of my family. I miss her constantly, despite all our issues, but I haven't cut her off completely. We've been having a hard time communicating at all right now, and I don't know if it will ever get better. But I am happily married and I don't regret it. Thanks for reading this far, and I appreciate all the kindness and honesty I got from my original post. Comment: I wouldn't wish this stress on anyone. I can tell you that one of the best lessons I've learned is that I have a right to privacy, a right to set boundaries, and a right to maintain them. In my context, that means that my mom doesn't need to have my location at all times. I am allowed to tell her that I only have 30 minutes, for example, to talk, and I am allowed to hang up the phone when that time limit is reached. I will always love my mom, but I don't have to let her control me. It's taken me a long time, close to 6 years, to figure these things out, with the help of friends, a supportive partner, and more recently, a licensed therapist. Stories number 2, my 27M, GF, 22F, of a year slept with another guy while we were taking it slow a month into dating me. I have been with this girl I'll call Jess for close to a year now. Since specifics matter here, we started dating around last Thanksgiving, but it was only about a month later when we said we're in an official relationship. I really liked this girl from the get-go and we've gotten very close since then, and we're actually planning of moving together soon. Here's a problem: recently Jess and I ran into a guy at a small get-together with mutual friends. They exchanged a weird look like there was something between them, but I didn't think too much of it at the time. During the party something came up about the place Jess went to for a date. The time was clear since it was a Christmas market in my town, and again I thought something was off about the guy. Well, later that night I actually get a text from him. He got my number from one of the mutual friends, but said, "Hey, I don't know you, but I thought you should know that Jess and I hooked up right after Christmas." I confronted Jess about this and I could tell she tensed up right away. She got this sad look on her face, but confessed right away. She said she had met this guy on Tinder and hooked up a couple of times but stopped any contact before we became official. She said she wasn't sure we would get into a relationship at that time, but she still felt bad that I found out this way. She said she considered telling me but was afraid it would ruin things between us. I told her I needed some time to think and proceeded to get drunk that night and ignored her texts. The thing is, I feel very betrayed and I am really considering ending things. Sure, we weren't official when this happened, but we had already been on multiple dates at that time, and I thought it was pretty clear that we were moving towards a full-fledged relationship. On my side, I had no interest in pursuing other girls at that point because I only wanted to be with Jess. And on her end she was definitely hinting at us evolving into a couple and strongly hinting at exclusivity. The other part that kills me is that during this early stage, Jess specifically said she wanted to take things slow physically until we knew each other better. But during this same time she hooks up with a guy she barely knew from Tinder. When I asked her this, she said it's different because she took it slow with me specifically because she thought we would get into a relationship, but it was somehow different with a casual hookup. That logic makes zero sense to me. I don't really want to talk about with my friends because I think they would hate Jess if end up staying together. But I would like to hear opinions on here. Would you stay in a relationship like this if things were going well but the beginning was so shady? TLDR, my GF met up and hooked up with a guy while we were dating but not official while she was taking it slow with me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. In my opinion, if you're dating someone and moving towards a serious relationship, you don't freaking bang other people. This would be a deal breaker for me, but you do, man. If you can't get past it, then end it. Reply. Yeah, that's how I feel as well. It would have been one thing if she was just talking to other guys in the early stages while we were still defining things. Of course, that's fine and normal. But it feels like a slap in the fact that she found another guy to sleep with after we had already gone on quite a few dates and I made it clear I thought we were moving towards a serious relationship, which she seemed to also acknowledge. There is no way she didn't know I would feel hurt that she did that. Commenter 2. All other things aside, it does make sense, for me, to take things slow with someone I'm pursuing a relationship with, but it doesn't matter for casual intercourse flings. I am thoroughly not into dating multiple people, though. Commenter 3. Totally agree with the first part. Also, not that it matters here, but it's a common thing. While I never talk to more than one person at a time, I know there are plenty of people, men and women, who do. To them, if it's not an official relationship, it's not a problem or issue. For me, I literally can't do it because that's just not who I am. Commenter 4. I would probably dump her. Sure, there was no true exclusivity talk, but I would be upset finding out that I had to wait because I'm such a great catch that intercourse can be denied because of it, yet some rando on Tinder can hook up right off the bat. Look, I get it. Her body. Her rules. She can sleep with everyone or no one. The point is, why the fuck do people use these hints about wanting to have a relationship but need to try out a few more models to make sure? I mean, it really feels like being strung along. We need to take it slow, which should be code for I don't want to rush this and get hurt, not take it slow with you but not him. This is just how I would personally view it. Commenter 5. Unless you guys were exclusive, then you don't have a leg to stand on, in my opinion. If you wanted both of you to not have intercourse with other people, it should have been a conversation and agreement between the two of you. She can't read your mind. As to hooking up with someone from Tinder, I understand it completely. There is a vast difference between casual intercourse and intercourse with someone you are developing feelings for. I, and many other men and women, are able to compartmentalize this because we understand that intercourse is largely a physical activity that humans do. Be very careful of the advice you are getting here. Reddit skews very young. Women aren't devalued just because they've had casual intercourse. Neither are men, of course. If you can't get over this, then I suggest you are 100% explicit with the next girl about your feelings and expectations. Final update. As the title says, I decided to break up with Jess. I kept going back and forth because I was worried I was throwing away a great thing over something that happened in the past. But the problem is I thought I really wouldn't able to get past it. I can't help what she did was really shitty. Yes, I know that technically she did not cheat. But she knew that I wanted a real relationship and that we were potentially moving in that direction. But, meanwhile she expected me to plan, and pay for, interesting dates, court her and prove that I was worthy of her while she happily hooked up with randos who basically did nothing but show an interest in fucking. Fuck that. In a follow-up conversation it also came up that her friends sort of guided her to act like this. That she should basically allow herself to have fun and to keep her casual options open, but with me to make me work for it and show that I wasn't just looking for intercourse but was capable of being a committed partner. The whole thing just seemed so manipulative and ugly, and these were also mutual friends who I considered to be nice girls and now my friends as well. Now I never want to see any of those pieces of shit ever again. Anyway, I know this is starting to sound a bit like a rant lol, but I felt pretty pissed off and basically called it quits. The actual breakup was actually quite unpleasant. No harsh words were exchanged, but Jess cried and we kind of talked about some happy times. I guess that's the hardest part about this, like I don't think she is a bad girl and maybe we could have had a nice future together like we did over the past few months. But in the end, I do think I made the right decision. I want to be with someone who treats me well from the get-go, not someone who manipulates me while playing games just so she can have her cake and eat it too. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Moral of the story is, if you want to be with someone ask for exclusivity explicitly. No confusion or hurt feelings then. Commenter 2. Seems like he did ask for exclusivity, and she didn't want it. OP's mistake was in waiting around for her to make up her mind. Commenter 3. He whole thing just seems so manipulative and ugly. I want to be with someone who treats me well from the get-go, not someone who manipulates me while playing games just so she can have her cake and eat it too. Spot on. You made the right decision. I would never tolerate being with someone who felt the need to use the technical excuse we weren't official to play the field. It's complete bullshit and show a complete lack of class and respect. Furthermore, someone who is so intent on dating multiple guys at the same time is likely someone that a lot of guys would not consider for any sort of serious relationship. If they are so needy for attention that it takes multiple guys every few weeks to fill their social calendar, and they have to have an app to manage scheduling all of their dates, then that is not relationship material for most men. Most men are not interested in getting serious with the town bicycle. This could have all been avoided if she would have just been upfront about her intent to continue to see others. It shouldn't have been left up to assume that she wasn't. Of course, she knew he would probably dump her if she would have told him, so it is likely he would have had to ask. While it may be acceptable in modern dating for women to be going through guys like potato chips, most guys that are looking for something serious are avoiding these types. It would be far simpler if the people were just honest up front about who they are, what they are planning on doing, and what they have been doing in the past. That way, both parties can make an informed decision quickly. If the guy doesn't want to go out with a woman that is dating multiple guys casually, or is into casual intercourse, or has a huge list of previous partners, then finding this out early lets him avoid wasting any time on someone that isn't going to be a match. Similarly, the girl can avoid wasting time on someone that isn't a match for her. Commenter 4. You also want to be with someone with enough confidence to make her own decisions, and who lives her values. Not her girlfriend's values. Stories number 3. Me, 26F, and boyfriend, 29M, of 3 years just had our first baby. We're white, baby is black. I have a close black ancestor, but so is furious and accusing me of cheating. As the title says, me and my so just had our first baby. We were over the moon when we discovered the pregnancy, and we were both really excited to have a child together. We wanted, to get married next year, and everything was going great. We were happy. We both look very white, pale skin, blue eyes, brown and blonde hair. However, my great-great-grandpa was black, and some of his features have popped up here and there in our family: kinky hair, darker skin, more black-looking facial characteristics. My son knows this and has seen some of my aunts, uncles and cousins who have these features. I however don't have any myself, and neither does my mom. Our daughter was born 5 days ago and I guess she just got all the dormant genes in me, because she's really dark-skinned compared to us with really curly hair. I think she's adorable, but my so flipped. He accused me of cheating, that the baby couldn't possibly be his. I've never given him a reason to suspect me of infidelity, and I've certainly never cheated. We argued about it. I pointed at all my cousins and other relatives who have black features, but he absolutely refused to listen, said our daughter looked too black for that to be a plausible explanation. He stormed out of the hospital, sent me a text an hour later that we were over, and when I got home from the hospital the next day he wasn't there and most of his personal belongings gone. I tried to reach him but he didn't answer my calls or texts until 3 days later, when he told me he demanded a paternity test to prove that I was a liar, and if I refuse I'll never see him again. I'm completely broken down and hurt over this. Our entire relationship he's been so sweet and rational, this is completely unlike him. If he'd just calmly asked for a paternity test to begin with I would have been hurt, but I guess I could understand the concerns. Our daughter looks nothing like him. But I don't think our relationship can survive this, even when I proved to him I wasn't lying. Should I go through with the test or just cut my losses here and raise her alone? TLDR, we're white, daughter is black. I have a close black ancestor but so refuses to believe that's the reason, exploded at me, moved out and is demanding a paternity test or else I'll never see him again. I'm hurt and angry. Should I get the test or just tell him to fuck off and raise our daughter alone? Edit. I decided to get the test done. I'll update you all when I get the results. I'm still angry, but I guess I understand him a bit better now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. That's your decision to make. However, in your situation, I'd do the paternity test either way. If you decide to leave him it's a nice big fuck you to him, and if you decide to stay, he gets his peace of mind. It's a win-win situation really. I'd be hurt as fuck if my so accused me of cheating, even though I've never shown any signs of it. However, how I'd react if I had a white GF, and the baby came out black. This is probably a 1 in a million type of situation, so I really can't say anything else about this. Commenter 2. You're going to need a DNA test for child support so you may as well get one now. What you choose to do about the relationship is up to you, but you're going to need the child support. Reply. Wow, I've been so caught up in this whole drama and taking care of baby I hadn't even thought about child support. You're right, I'll get the test done, if only to make sure baby gets the best life possible. Commenter 3. People are surprisingly ignorant of how genetics work. Anyway, get the paternity test, just for his peace of mind, but understand that your relationship is irreparably broken and that he may sadly never show your daughter the sort of love or affection a father should show his child. This is a heartbreaking situation. I feel most for the baby, and you of course. But that little girl is going to face a lot of challenges in life looking like a black child to white parents. Talk to your more black-looking relatives about this and do research on how to talk to your daughter about her ancestry and prepare her for some of the more stupid, bigoted, ridiculous things people are bound to say. Reply. Yeah, I imagine things are gonna be hard for her, but at least she has a loving mom and a family who can relate to her. I just hope my boyfriend, my ex, I don't even know anymore, will come around and treat her with the respect he couldn't afford to give me. OOP on her family history. For generations back, my great-grandma and all her siblings look really black, my grandma less so. My mom's generation is the first to have completely white-looking kids. And I don't think so. My friends joke that my butt is so big I must have inherited that, but I don't think big butts are an actual racial trait, just more of a stereotype. Plenty of white girls with big booties. Update. Well, the results are in and of course she's his. The whole process was absolutely ridiculous. I got an appointment with the doctor and texted so the time and location. He didn't answer but showed up, and the entire time he didn't say one word to me, and he didn't want to touch or even look at baby, and left as soon as they'd taken his sample, despite the doctor asking him to stay so we could go over a few things. Once he left I just broke down, and I must say the doctor was really nice, didn't judge me or accuse me of anything, just calmly went over how the test works, and told me babies are often born darker than they actually end up being. Baby was an absolute champ, barely fussed when they drew her blood. I got the results yesterday. I texted so the news and asked if he wanted to come over and open it with me. After almost half an hour he finally responded, yes he'd like to come over. I'm thinking he either sent it while on his way or he's not staying very far away because he was here in about 15 minutes. Well, we opened it and read the positive test together. He turned white like a sheet and then just started bawling. I had to shush him because he was crying so loudly. And finally I got an explanation for his flip out. I mentioned in a comment on the old post that he was an only child to very old parents. His dad died a few years ago, and his mom lives alone a few hours drive from us. I haven't met her often, but she seemed pleasant enough. Turns out she hates me. Absolutely hates my guts and always has. I had no idea about this. She's always acted kinda snobby, sure, but I had no idea she disliked me this much. When So called her to tell her the good news 8 months back when we discovered the pregnancy, she started crying. He never told me this. And as the months passed, she continued being super negative about the whole thing, and saying she doubted the baby was actually his. I was below them. Poor people cheat because they're raised in a fucked up environment, WTF. And instead of talking to me about this, So kept silent while constantly doubting me more and more. Baby being black just put the final nail in the coffin that his mother was right and I was a good-for-nothing, cheating bitch. After telling me all this, we just sat in silence for a while. Finally he asked if he could hold baby. I was still angry as hell, but decided that holding her was his right. He's her father after all. I went and got her from her crib, let him have her, and he started crying again, which scared her and she started crying too. So they were just sitting there bawling together for a while. Finally he stopped, handed her back and asked if he could come home. I was kinda taken aback. I didn't expect him to just flat out ask that already. I laid out everything I said in the last thread, how insanely disrespectful and childish he'd been, how he'd horribly broken my trust, hadn't talked to me about his mom's poisonous and ignorant comments, completely ignores me for 3 days not telling me where he is or if he's even alive, and then he just waltzes in and wants to start living here again. I told him if he ever wanted to have some inkling of a chance of mending the relationship, we had to go to couples therapy ASAP. From now on he will answer my calls and messages unless there's an emergency. He will not be staying here for a while, and finally he needs tell his mom to back the fuck off. She will not be seeing baby until she apologizes to me in person. He immediately agreed, and finally told me how sorry he was for this whole fiasco. I'm not sure if I can forgive him for this, but I'm gonna try. We had an amazing life before this, and I hope that with a lot of work we can have it again. So also finally told me that he was staying in a hostel, but it's not very expensive so he can stay there for a while longer. Baby is doing great considering how many stress hormones she must have been drinking from me these last few days. Her hair is falling out, but the doctor told me it was normal and babies often lose most or all the hair they're born with. I'm hoping her new hair will grow in blonde, that would make her even cuter. Thank you all for your help on the last thread. My mom agreed with many of you and thinks I'm absolutely nuts for trying to work things out, but I think it'd be best for everyone if we at least give it a shot, especially baby. TLDR, I'm not a lying whore, his mom is a bitch, we're trying to work things out. Stories number 4. I, F35, just found out why my ex, M26, broke up with me. It's making me upset even though I'm in a healthy relationship now. I'm 25 BTW, the 35 is a typo. So I'm in a healthy relationship and have been for almost 4 years. We live together and we're planning on buying a house and getting married. The person I was with before this relationship was a long-time childhood friend who broke up with me suddenly, out of the blue with little explanation. I was very surprised and upset about the breakup at the time and never got any closure as to why he ended things. As we were childhood friends, we shared a friendship group and have continued to share a friendship group, meaning we are often at the same social events together, but I deliberately don't speak directly to him or seek out any interaction with him, as I feel like our friendship ended when our relationship did, but I do keep things civil. He started to date another girl in my friendship group recently and I was speaking to her and explaining how I was happy for her as she has been dating a string of horrible, almost abusive, men and I was glad that she was choosing a safe guy. She then confessed to me that she has been sleeping with him for years and that they actually slept together when me and him were dating. She told me that the reason why he broke up with me suddenly was because he felt guilty for cheating on me and that he had been confiding in her that he wanted to break up with me because he felt bad about sleeping with her. She was surprised that this was news to me and I tried to keep a poker face, and not seem upset. I now feel conflicted. On the one hand, this was over 4 years ago, almost 5 years probably, and I'm in a happy and healthy relationship, but I now feel so blindsided by this, especially as she was someone I considered a friend. I've not spoken to my partner about this because I don't want him to think I'm still hung up on my past relationships. Edit, thanks for all the advice and reassurance. I spoke to my current boyfriend about it a few hours ago and he was really understanding and supportive. We then went on a nice walk and had a nap. We're both a bit hangover. I think I'm going to take a break from seeing all of that group for a while and then maybe try and figure out who knew, but I think that it may just upset me further. I've got other friends and a nicer, happier life. I think I was just so shocked by how 2 people I've known for over 10 years could surprise me in such a horrible way. Oh well. I guess you never really know people. Thank you Reddit for making me feel less insane. Stories number 5. Aita for refusing to change my newborn daughter's name just because my MIL says it reminds her of someone she doesn't like and now she's refusing to acknowledge the baby. 29F, just had my first baby 2 weeks ago with my husband, 31M. We named our daughter Lila Rose, a name we both loved from the start. Rose was my grandmother's middle name and meant a lot to me personally, and Lila is just a name I've always loved. My husband was 100% on board from the beginning, and we've called her that since before she was born. We didn't share the name with anyone ahead of time to avoid opinions or drama. Well, that didn't work out. The moment my MIL heard the name at the hospital, she literally frowned and said, "Really?" I thought she was just surprised or maybe didn't like the sound, but nope. She pulled my husband aside and told him the name reminded her of a girl she went to college with who ruined her life. I still don't even fully understand what that means. Some old drama where they both liked the same guy or something. She got super vague and emotional about it, but it had absolutely nothing to do with us or our baby. Since then, she's been acting so weird. She won't say the baby's name, she just says the baby or her. When she visited briefly, once, she kept making comments like, "Well, I guess I'll just have to get used to it, or you'll regret naming her that when she starts acting like that other Lila." She even suggested we file a name change while it's still early enough. I told her nicely at first that we're not changing the name. It's meaningful to us and frankly, her college drama has nothing to do with our kid. She got offended and said I was being insensitive and not considering her trauma. Since then, she hasn't checked in, hasn't asked for updates or photos, and has been low-key ghosting us. My husband says she told him she feels disrespected and that I'm purposely excluding her from important decisions. Now he's asking if we can just tweak the name or use the middle name instead to keep the peace. I told him absolutely not. I'm not going to rename my daughter because of some woman my MIL had beef with 30+ years ago. This isn't about her, and I feel like if we cave on this, she'll keep pushing boundaries. My husband gets it, but he's also stuck in the middle and hates conflict. I get that, but I'm also tired of feeling like I'm the bad guy for just naming my own child. Aita for refusing to change my daughter's name and standing my ground. Stories number 6. Aita for leaving my boyfriend's place in the middle of the night after he locked the bathroom. So this happened a few nights ago and I'm honestly still weirded out. I, 28F, was staying over at my boyfriend's, 31M, place we've been dating for about 6 months. Around 11 p.m., I got up to use the bathroom. I tried the handle and it was locked. I waited, thinking maybe he was in there, but nope, he was just sitting on the couch. I asked, "Why is the bathroom locked?" And he says, "I don't let people use my bathroom after 10 p.m. It's a boundary I have." I told him I needed to pee and he just goes, "You'll have to wait until morning." At that point, I didn't know what to say. I asked him to unlock it, told him this was ridiculous, and he stood firm. My space, my rules. Yeah, I left. I wasn't gonna sit there uncomfortable all night. I live like 15 minutes away, so I just packed up and drove home. I didn't make a scene, just said this was too much for me and left. He texted me later calling me disrespectful, and that I should have talked it out instead of walking out. My sister said I did the right thing, but one of my friends said I probably made it bigger than it needed to be and should have just stayed and dealt with it. I don't know, maybe I overreacted. I can't stop thinking who locks the bathroom and tells someone to just hold it. That's not normal, right? Aita for leaving over that. Stories number 7. My fiancé is demanding I stop making home-cooked meals for a friend. I, 27M, am very passionate about cooking. I'm not a professional chef by any means, but it's one of my favorite hobbies. I love the act of creating food, but sharing it is what's really special to me, whether it's something I've made or a nice meal at a restaurant. My girlfriend, 27F, is pretty picky. She won't even touch a majority of the things I cook or split most meals at restaurants, and that's fine. It's the way she's been reacting to other people enjoying my food that bothers me. A good friend of mine, Jace, 34M, is a truck driver. I don't get to see him as often as I would like, but when he comes home I always make it a point to feed him well. It's fun for me to plan. It's also really fulfilling in a way. It makes me feel this sense of warmth, making something for him. I know that being on the road so much can be tough, so when he's here I want him to feel grounded and at peace. Basically, I'm giving this man all the comfort food. Jace is always so appreciative and makes jokes about coming home to his wife. He should be back home in just a few days, and I mentioned to my fiancée that I had a whole menu planned. She got upset and basically told me that she didn't like how I went above and beyond for him. I've held my ground and said it's important to me, but her comments have started feeling a little less aimed at her own discomfort and more so just derogatory towards me. Aita for wanting to keep cooking for him. Comments. Commenter 1. This sounds less about the food and more about the effort and thought you put into this friendship, perhaps making her question if you're prioritizing her a similar way. Is there something non-food related you put this much energy into doing for your GF? Planning dates, romantic evenings, things you know she likes. I know you enjoy making food for others, but have you taken the time to learn how your GF feels most loved and appreciated? And then facilitated that for her. Do you have the same level of energy for helping your GF feel grounded and at peace when she's had a rough day at work or in general? Commenter 2. It's probably not so much the food, it sounds like your girlfriend feels threatened by your relationship with the truck driver. Commenter 3. To be honest, I kind of want to meet this truck driver after that write-up. Reply. He is very offline, or I'd get him to virtually introduce himself. He listens to a lot of YouTube while he's driving, but that's the extent of his social media use. It's enviable and makes me cut down on my doom scrolling. Trying to explain memes to him is humbling, lol. Commenter 4. Bro, you should dump your annoying GF for this truck driver. Commenter 5. OP forgot to mention the truck driver eats these meals at OP's home, in his painting room. Possibly followed by Babylonian yogurt. Update. My girlfriend and I are currently on a break. I don't think I consciously realized it, but some part of me must have known how close we were to a breaking point. Otherwise I don't think I would have written or posted my original question. I was making chicken breast for Jace on Friday. Whenever he gets back from a job, he'll go home and crash for a few hours. I like to time things so his meal is hot and ready when he wakes up. I had left the kitchen while it was cooking, and the oven was off when I came back. I asked my fiancée if she had done it, and she said yes. This resulted in easily the worst fight we've had. I ended up asking for the engagement ring back. This goes beyond me feeling unappreciated. This is her actively undermining something I'm passionate about. It feels like contempt. This is supposed to be a temporary break, but I really don't feel any sadness over not having seen or talked to her the past few days. I don't know where to go from here. A very big part of me just wants to be done. Comments. Commenter 1. Dropped from being referred to as fiancé to just girlfriend in 7 days. Not a good sign. Commenter 2. It's the art room all over again. Commenter 3. I think the issue isn't that she doesn't appreciate your cooking. I think your girlfriend believes you have a relationship with your truck driver friend. The way you describe how you feel cooking for him is something on a different level of just cooking for a friend. Stories number 8. Aita for not making amends with my mother after she called Child Protective Services on my wife. My entire life I have had a rough relationship with my mom. She was very hot and cold, either loved me or didn't speak to me. She cheated on my dad with the pastor of our church right before I went to college. I was devastated and temporarily cut her off, then moved 16 hours away to go to school. She divorced my dad and married my former pastor, and neither of us spoke to each other until a couple years later at Christmas. I had to come to her, she's never reached out to me. I stayed at college for another few years after we reconnected, but she still wouldn't come out to see me, even though my dad took the time to drive out several times, making sure each of my 5 younger siblings got to see me. My mom said she couldn't come to my college graduation even after I offered to pay for her flight. In the meantime, I had started dating a girl in college who I really liked. After I graduated, I took a job back in my home state and she came with me, leaving her family 16 hours behind. We got married a year later and things seemed okay with my mom. My wife liked her and they did things together, went shopping, went out to eat. I felt like even though my parents were divorced, things were finally calmer. Fast forward a few years later and my first child was born. My wife suffered from postpartum depression and I honestly wasn't the most supportive husband. I complained about her to my family, giving up private details of her mental health that I should have never shared. She recovered around 6 months later, and a year after that, we decided to have a second child. My wife warned me she was at risk of PPD again, and we made a plan with her doctor to start medication as soon as our second baby was born. Again, I shared this information with my family, which I know now isn't okay, but my mom started giving me a lot of grief. She said my wife shouldn't be on medication, it was bad for her, bad for the baby, my wife was going to nurse. My mom was a nurse, so I assumed she knew what she was talking about, and this caused drama between me and my wife. The last couple of months of her pregnancy were rough because I was adamant, based on the information I got, that she shouldn't take medication. My wife didn't listen and took it anyway. This time she was fine, no PPD, but had a rough physical recovery. We ended up moving to a home we purchased that was an hour away from my family. I resented my wife for thinking she wasn't doing the safest thing for my kid, and my mom started to resent my wife because of the medication and the fact my wife didn't want to drive an hour each way to visit my mom with both the kids. My wife said my mom could some see her if she wanted, but it was a lot for her to take both kids during the week to see my mom. She said they would nap in the car and then wouldn't sleep at night, which would mess up their schedules. We went to see my mom a couple of times with the kids on the weekends, but she was adamant that my wife bring them to her during the week. This caused more stress and drama and made me mad at my wife for seemingly not caring that she was ruining the relationship that I worked so hard to rebuild with my mom. This went on for about a year, when my wife got a call from CPS. They said they needed to do an investigation based on allegations that were made. My siblings confirmed that my mom made the report and was also starting a smear campaign against my wife. When we met with the CPS worker, the allegations were outrageous. Some of them were based on my wife's PPD, which she only had with my first child, but others were flat-out lies. She said we were isolating our kids, because we wouldn't come see her, and locking our kids up in gates like cages. We literally had a playpen for our barley walking baby to keep him safe while my wife did chores. Anyway, she took anything true and exaggerated it into something awful. We had to go through the whole investigation process, which was traumatic for us, but in the end were cleared of wrongdoing and they labeled the report as a false allegation. Unfortunately, in that state there weren't any repercussions for false reports, but our attorney advised us to cut contact to avoid future retaliation. This whole ordeal really opened my eyes to the sad truth that my mom is a full-blown narcissist. I kind of knew it before, but was in denial and really wanted things to work. We ended up cutting off my mom completely and moving to another state. Right before we left, I confronted my mom and told her if she wants to be in our lives, she needs to own up to her lies and apologize to my wife. She doubled down, saying she was concerned and said my wife had problems and she would never apologize. It's now been 7 years and my mom hasn't said a word. She sent her husband after me at a family wedding, telling me it's breaking her heart that I won't contact her. I told him she hasn't apologized to my wife and his response is, "Oh, we don't care about that thing anymore." But my wife and I do. They have to be insane to think that we want people in our lives who could have had our children taken away. My siblings have been gaining up on me for years, saying that I need to be the bigger person and apologize. I on the other hand can't trust my mom and feel like she's too unhinged to welcome back into our lives, especially since she can't take any responsibility for lying. Am I the asshole? TDLR, my mom made false allegations against my wife and my family thinks I should just forget about it. Stories number 9. I called OSHA on my job and nobody knows it was me that did it. This happened a little over a year ago. I work at a chain spa as an esthetician. Our building isn't in the best shape, but our property manager is notoriously difficult to deal with. We're in a small strip, and there's about 3 other businesses that share our strip. Our building had an issue, can't remember if it was the roof or the AC unit, but water was leaking into the ceiling and causing water damage. We had to remove and replace several ceiling tiles before, but this time, it got really bad. A ceiling tile fell off in the hallway, and water was pouring from it. Want to know the solution my job came up with? They put a garbage bin underneath the leak and called it a day. We started calling it our Tranquility Waterfall as a joke. Imagine taking your client back for what's supposed to be a relaxing service, and you first have to pass the obnoxiously loud cascade of water flowing into an industrial-sized garbage can. Nobody was doing anything about it. Management seemed to think it wasn't that big of a deal. But the service providers were starting to get worried. Water damage was spreading to the massage rooms, and some therapists were worried a ceiling tile might fall on them or a client during a service. OMG. Can you imagine? LOL. It was a completely ridiculous situation. To make it worse, before they put the garbage bin down, water had already seeped into the carpet. So now the whole building smelled like mildew. Again, everyone was talking about it but no one was doing anything. My co-workers were wondering when a client was going to finally call OSHA on us. I decided I didn't want to wait, so I went to their website and filed a complaint. On the website, they said it might take up to 30 days for any action to be taken. I kind of sighed, and started to doubt myself. Maybe it wasn't that big of an issue. A few days later, I overheard my managers in the office talking about OSHA. Seemed like my complaint actually did something. We had to shut down for a few days, everything got fixed, thankfully. I can't remember if the issue was with the roof or the AC unit. They had mold inspectors come out, and they must have found something because one of our massage rooms had to be completely gutted and redone, drywall and everything. It sucked being down a room for a while, but no one was complaining afterwards since the room was much nicer than it was before, lol. I never told anyone at my job about it. I don't know why, it just feels slightly embarrassing for some reason. I don't want to be perceived as a Karen or complainer because I'm really not. I tell myself that if I hadn't done it, eventually someone else would've. Better sooner than later. Stories number 10. Aita for telling my transgender child I need more time to process. I, 58M, have a child, FTM 17, who is transgender. My child uses he/him pronouns at school and around friends and also goes by a preferred name at school. My wife and I signed off on anything related to school, and refer to my child with the preferred name and pronouns around teachers and friends. We are also in the process of hiring a college counselor, and introduce my child with the preferred name and pronouns to said counselor since that's what will be going on the college application. Last night, my child asked me to talk about why I or my wife haven't used the preferred name and pronouns at home, despite it being 5 years since my child came out. My child seemed laid back and steady the entire conversation, but also seemed to be frustrated throughout parts, particularly at my answers. The truth is, as I told my child, I need a little more time. I've called my child one thing for 17 years, it's not easy to just switch at the press of a button. My child also pointed out that some friends who are transgender have much more flexible parents when it comes to all this, but I feel like my wife and I have been doing a good job. We got stuff set up with the school, we refer to my child in the preferred way around friends. I don't understand why my child is upset. I haven't used their legal name in years, but apparently that's not enough. In my defense, my child has never formally asked me or my wife to use the preferred name or pronouns at home. I asked my child about this, and the response was that it's not something I should have to ask you, it's something you just do. I feel like my feelings aren't being considered here, it's not an easy change. I told my child that I was sorry things weren't moving as fast as my child might like, but that I need time to process. We ended the conversation there, on what I thought was a positive note, but my child has been giving me the silent treatment since they woke up this morning. I've told my wife that we should all have a discussion this weekend, but I'm worried it won't have the outcome my child wants. I'm very grateful that my child has been so patient, but I feel like some things might be said that my child will regret and I'm worried for how that might impact our relationship. Apologies for the ramble, I don't have a lot of experience in this, and was hoping for some thoughts from people in a similar situation, or know people in a similar situation. Aita. Edit 1, I've seen a lot of rage bait comments, and I can assure you, I am not nearly that talented of a writer to come up with this on my own. This is a real person's story, and I appreciate seeing all the advice I've received. My family is having a discussion this weekend, and I don't really know how updates work on this subreddit, but I might post an update afterward if people are interested. Edit 2, I did not expect this post to gain so much attention. I appreciate all the helpful advice and DMs I've received. Replying to comments is a bit overwhelming but I assure you I've read as many as I can. Comment by OOP. To what he is calling his son usually. Typically the first letter of my child's given name, which conveniently aligns with the chosen name. Either that, or the child, my child is an only child, and I think it's quite funny. People point out, while it's okay to need time to adjust to things, it's been 5 years, which is 1/3 of his son's life. They also point out that the gymnastics to avoid pronouns in the posting are painful to watch, and it would be easier to just use the ones his son prefers. Update. A lot has happened, and while my child is away at camp, I thought I would take the time to post an update. I received a lot of advice in the thousands of comments and dozens of DM requests I got. A lot of this advice was a wake-up call that I and my wife really needed, and I appreciate everyone who took the time to send thoughtful and constructive responses. To those who wrote that my child was mentally ill, that he was just confused, or that I needed to send him to a conversion camp, shame on all of you. My child is happy, he is loved, and he is not going to hell just for being who he is. On to what happened. My family and I had a series of discussions following the original conversation I had with my child. To put it simply, we realized how important it was for my child to be referred to with his preferred name and pronouns all the time, including home life. Over the months that have passed since our discussion, I have been referring to my child by his preferred name as much as I can. Yes, I occasionally mess up, but I am trying my hardest. He went to prom this year with his friends, and I took him to rent a suit for the first time. When we left with the suit in hand, he turned to me and said that it was the first time I hadn't made a single mistake, and that he really felt like my son for the first time. I won't lie, it made me tear up a little. We also went to a Father's Day baseball game this year, like we always do, but he told me after that it felt like this was the first father-son game instead of a daddy-daughter game. Even though our team got absolutely demolished, I think that was the most fun I've ever had at a game with him. It made me realize that I was putting my own comfort first, when in reality, seeing him this happy should have been my #1 priority. I've been talking to my mother about referring to my child with the correct name and pronouns, and it's been a little slower. She's been to my son's theater performances where his preferred name is listed in the program, but I don't think she's fully understood that that name is going to be a permanent thing, not a school nickname. I don't expect her to fully get it, and my child is very understanding. However, my wife is still getting used to it, and it's definitely taking her a lot more time. My son will often point out how she goes out of her way to use non-specific language when talking about him. For example, he lost his keys last week, and when my wife told me, she said I can't find the keys. The is to show the pause she made when thinking of what to say. I didn't notice it very much at first, and I will admit, part of it is because I used to make a similar mistake, but it's gotten pretty noticeable. I've talked to her in private, but she's always been less willing, and part of me thinks she truly believes it's a phase. I don't know what to tell her. My son is relatively fine with it, but goes out of his way to avoid being around my wife when she's talking about him. Family events are also a bit of a nightmare. My wife's side of the family is huge and she loves hosting, but they aren't the greatest with my son's name and pronouns. Surprisingly, though, her father has been pretty good, calling my child E and occasionally using male pronouns, but it depends on who he's talking to. There is another trans member on my mother's side, but there has been a lot of hostility surrounding this person, and I wonder if part of that hostility is leaking on to how the family views my son as well. My son has discussed HRT, and I know he has plans to start as soon as he turns 18. I'm still discussing this with my wife, who is against it. She wants him to wait until he's done with college as she's worried with all the change that will happen then, that HRT would just be too much. I don't know what to think. He has been saving money from basically anywhere he can. He worked a job last summer and I know he has a couple hundred in his piggy bank. Our insurance would cover it, but it's under my wife's name, so she would have to allow it, if I'm not mistaken. I know my son has done more research than I have. I know he's been looking forward to this, and I know he's a sneaky kid, he'll find a way to get his hands on it with or without my wife and I. I just want him to be safe and happy. I sincerely apologize for all my rambling. I never thought I'd update this post because I wasn't sure if I'd have anything good to report. My wife and I are working on getting my son back into therapy, the normal kind, not the one that will deny my son his much-deserved happiness. He was in it before, but asked to be removed from his then-current therapist because it wasn't helping him very much. He's asked for a younger therapist, one that has more shared interests, and one that specializes in transgender youth. We're working on it. I think if that goes smoothly then we'll all be better off. My son has brought up family therapy, but my wife is very much against it. She doesn't really believe in all that stuff. Thank you again to everyone who reached out and left helpful advice. I cannot thank you enough. If this ends up in one of those Reddit TikTok videos that I see my son watching when he's supposed to be doing homework, and if he sees this, I hope you know how much I love you and care about you. Please come talk to me anytime about anything. Seeing you happy is all I care about. Much love, Dad. TL, DR, things have gotten a lot better, believe it or not. Helpful comment. HRT should happen during college. Why? Your son is 18 and you cannot make that choice for him. If you try to prevent him he will resent you and you will lose him. Taking HRT during college is an excellent idea because it allows him to discover himself and also lets him experience socialization as a male. One of my close friends got on HRT during college and joined a fraternity. He learned the ins and outs of male socialization and helped a ton with his mental health. College is about self-discovery. Trying to hinder that and expecting your child to figure themselves out after they are being thrust into the real world is the worst idea ever. Comment by OOP. He's going to turn 18 this fall. He's a rising senior in high school, so it would be about a year before he starts college. I know his current goal is to get his first dose by March, as that's when his friends who are starting college this year will be visiting him, 2 of whom are also trans, and I'm honestly more open to him starting at home versus away, so at the very least my wife and I can support him and get used to the changes. It all depends on what my wife thinks, but like I mentioned, he's a sneaky kid. He's gonna get it whether she wants him to or not. I'd rather him do it the safe and supervised way. Stories number 11. I left my date on my side of the road. I, 22F, went on a date with a man, 31M, I met on Hinge. We chatted for a few days beforehand, and he bragged about the fun things we were going to do, and the nice car he was going to pick me up in. On the day of the date he told me his car, Audi A5, was in the shop and he had to pick me up in his brother's car. Which ended up being a beat-up Saab with spray paint and stickers all over it. I decided to just drive my own car. I met him at our first location, which was the museum. At the counter he pulled out his EBT card so that we could get in for free, which was shocking. He told me he was an electrical engineer, so how would he qualify for EBT? The date actually goes okay and we leave the museum and decide to drive in my car to the next location. The second he sees my car he starts laughing and acting strange. I ask him what's funny but he brushes me off. We drive from the museum to the second location. About 5 minutes into the drive he asks if the car we're driving is mine. I tell him it is and that it was a gift. He laughs and says I would have respectfully declined. Nissan Altimas are one of the most low-quality cars on the market. I didn't really know what to say after that. I have a 2021 Nissan Altima that I inherited after my mom died. He then says the girly seat covers don't help and that I should go for an all-black look. I tell him that they're my mom's seat covers, he already knew she died recently. He then says I'm not sure why that matters. It doesn't look good. I start getting a little pissed and then I ask about his Audi and if he has any pics of it. He gets super defensive and continues to talk bad about my car. I pull over and tell him to get out. He's somehow shocked, but gets out. I'm not sure if I overreacted, but it felt like he lied about his job and his car and maybe felt insecure when he saw mine. Stories number 12. Aita for telling my cheating ex-husband I will never feel bad for him and I will never help him make this better. I, 46F, was married to my ex-husband John, 48M, a decade when I found out he had cheated multiple times with multiple women, one of whom became a fully fledged affair. We had 3 young kids at the time. How I found out was I started suffering some concerning symptoms, went to the doctor and some tests were ran and it was discovered I had gonorrhea, which had caused pelvic inflammatory disorder. The whole thing was devastating and John didn't even pretend he was concerned about me, but he was concerned about his affair partner Kathy. The 2 of them married after the divorce and I had to pick up the pieces, deal with the consequences of John's cheating and his lasting gift and help my kids deal with the divorce. All while I had to be civil in front of the kids, which killed me. I had minimal contact with John and Kathy. I refused to speak to either unless I had to. A few times they attempted additional contact with the aim of us being friends, but I shot that down and I told the 2 of them to rot in hell. The kids had a good relationship with their dad until a few years ago. But John and Kathy were unable to have children together. I believe she had miscarriages and stillbirths and my kids felt there was pressure on them to gather around them and love Kathy so she'd still feel like a mother, but none of them had a close relationship with her and they felt like their dad was manipulative about it, so they started going to his house less and faded away. My youngest graduated in May and didn't invite John or Kathy. There were discussions about it, but ultimately he decided he would prefer to focus on his achievement and not the drama. John attempted to get me to force my youngest hand and he tried to throw a pity party about their losses and Kathy's love for the kids and her losing the chance to be a mother. I blocked him after several text messages about this. Now I've had him at my house trying to make me feel bad for him and Kathy by talking about all the losses and asking me to help him make this better. Which to him means he wants the kids back in his and Kathy's lives and for me to encourage them to love both of them and to let them, but especially Kathy, feel like she won't miss out on all the motherly experiences. He wanted me to treat her like their other mother and present as a team so that when weddings and babies come along she'll be included and equal in all of it. I had no patience for his request, and even though he was already upset talking about the losses, I was not kind when I told him to get away from my house and from me. I told him I will never feel bad for him and that his pity party and attempt to make me responsible for their happiness after the way he treated me was outrageous. I told him he caused all of this and he can fix it, but he doesn't deserve a single ounce of kindness or compassion from me after his actions in our marriage. He tried to argue, but I closed my front door and he left after that. I was on good terms with John's sister after everything went down, but once she heard about our interaction at my house she turned on me. She told me she understands me hating them, but John has been broken up about all the losses they have endured and I could have been a little kinder. And that I should want my kids to have John and Kathy in their lives. That I should be able to see it would be better for them and future grandkids. I told her I owed the two of them nothing and did not wish for their happiness. She told me I had proven to be spiteful and hurt her brother when our divorce happened more than a decade ago now, and it's truly in the past. I'm disappointed that relationship broke down, but feel like it was possibly naive to think it would always survive what happened because John's her brother first. I do value her opinion, or did before this. I disagree with what she said, but I also feel like I shouldn't dismiss it without seeking others' opinions when I have always valued what she says before. Even though I believe this is just a loyalty thing at the end of it all. Stories number 13. I sleep with my brother sometimes. Like not in that way, but still, I'm 14 male. My brother is 18. He's leaving for college next month and I didn't think I'd care much, but I do. He's my best friend and I love him so much. I'm sure I annoy him some, but I don't really have many other friends. A few weeks ago I went to his room at night and asked if I could sleep in the bed with him. I thought he'd just laugh at me, but he let me. I gave him a hug in bed and basically cuddled him. We didn't say anything to each other. I've done it a few times since. We never talk while we are in bed or talk about it outside of bed. He probably thinks I'm weird, I'm not sure. I know it's not normal to want to snuggle up with another guy, but I just like being with him and it feels nice and safe. I probably have mental problems or something. I'm sure he'd be super embarrassed if any of his friends found out. I'm not sure what our parents would think. I don't think they've noticed. Comments. Commenter 1. Being close to ones you love isn't weird. You're looking for comfort and safety. Commenter 2. It's just human, especially before big changes like him leaving for college. Commenter 3. Absolutely, I agree. And Big Brother knows it. I was myself the big brother and I took care of my younger brother, and I could see and feel how he wanted to be with me. OP should probably just tell his brother something in the lines of, "Hey bro, thanks for being a great brother, I feel happy and safe when you are around." Reply, how did you take care of him and how could you feel he wanted to be with you? And how old were you all then? Commenter 4. I am 10 years older than my brother. When he was 4 I started walking him to kindergarten, later I drove him to school. We enjoyed playing and goofing with whatever we found fun. For some time we shared the same bedroom in bunker beds, he was in the lower bed. It was common that he asked me to lay next to him so he could fall asleep. I took that as a break from studying, but also liked giving him some enjoyment. When I met the mothers of some of his friends, it was common them saying, "So you are the famous older brother." He told people about me, that's how I knew. Commenter 5. You're not weird or broken, you just love your brother and want to be close while he's still there. That's completely normal. He loves you too, or he wouldn't let you stay. It's okay. Commenter 6. I hate as a society how we have sexualized everything. Update. I don't have much of an update, but I just wanted to say everyone has been so nice to me here and made me feel not so weird after all, so thanks. About the title, I honestly didn't mean to clickbait you all, I just had legitimately asked my brother one night, could I sleep with you tonight? So that's what I was thinking of when I made it, and I tried clarifying in the first sentence. I know being close to family isn't bad and it's pretty normal to share a bed with a sibling every now and then. I just couldn't help feeling a little awkward by putting my arms around him and hugging him and snuggling up to him in bed of all places since I'm not a little kid anymore. But I guess the comments made me realize how it just made me feel safe and relaxed and comforted to be with him, and it just like made all my stress go away for a little while when I was with him. And it sounds like some other people have felt the same way, and maybe that's not so weird after all. A few comments mentioned talking to him about it. It seemed pretty awkward too, but I figured I'd give it a try cause I wanted to make sure I wasn't annoying him. I asked to share his bed again this Saturday and we did. And I said sorry I'm being weird, I hope I'm not annoying you. He said it's not big deal dude, just relax. I don't mind. I told him I loved him and I was going to miss him when he left for college. He said alright dude, let's not make this a whole moment, okay? But a few seconds later he said he loved me and would miss me too, but he'd always be there for me. We talked some just about life and how we'd stay in touch when he left for college, so I guess that made me feel a little better. We also agreed we'd sleep in our own beds on weekdays, but weekends were fair game if we wanted to share and I didn't have to ask every time. Also apparently our parents had noticed cause he said mom had asked him if I was okay. He said I was fine. He asked me you are, right? I said I'd be okay. Anyways, thanks again for making me feel like I'm not a weirdo after all. I read every single one of your comments and all your stories made me feel so much better about myself. Comments. Commenter 1. This is a very wholesome update. Thank you. Your whole family seems to care a lot for each other. Commenter 2. You're grand. Not all of us get to have loving, wholesome relationships with our siblings, or other family members. Cherish it. Commenter 3. Absolutely. OP's lucky to have that kind of bond. It's sweet, not weird. So many people wish they had that level of comfort and trust with family. Commenter 4. Such a beautiful update and such a healthy family. I'm so happy for you. As someone who has 2 brothers, I love more than life. I also sometimes just lay my head on their shoulders while scrolling on my phone. Siblings are our first friends in life and will always be the ones who understand you the best. Stories number 14. My roommate's friends destroyed my stuff while they were drunk. Context: I had been at my boyfriend's place all day when I came home around 9 p.m. to this perfume, a plate my grandmother had gotten me for jewelry and stuff, a plant and a decoration I had were all smashed on the ground. I'm really sorry if the screenshots are confusing. They're texts with my 2 roommates, so I was trying to make them as non-confusing as possible. I didn't block out the names of the 2 guys who done it, because it would have just made the whole story really hard to follow if you didn't know who done what parts of it. But I'm genuinely just really worked up about this whole thing. I know not that much stuff broke, but I'm honestly just really angry about it. Copy of the text messages. Roommate 1. OOP shows 2 pics of a destroyed room. Me, do you have any idea what happened to my room? I just got back from redacted. And things are just broken on the floor and everything that was on my dresser has been pushed onto my bed. And one of my perfumes is just smashed on the floor. Roommate 1, no idea sorry. And everything was fine. Maybe ask Chelsea. Me, what time is that? Roommate 1, at around like 2 p.m. Maybe an animal got in or something. Me, I don't see how that could have happened. I'm actually so confused WTF. I got the plate thing that's smashed on the floor from my granny to hold my jewelry and stuff. I'm so upset. Roommate 1, I actually have no idea what happened. When I left everything was fine. Me, I'll ask, redacted. Roommate 2. OOP shows the photos to roommate 2. OOP hey, do you have any idea what happened to my room? I came home from redacted. And there's things just smashed on the ground and everything that was on my dresser has been pushed onto my bed. Roommate 2, OMG WTF. Have no idea. I left around 8 p.m. and everything seemed okay to me. Me, really? I'm so confused, what the fuck? No other part of the apartment is smashed up, it's literally only my room. Roommate 2, I've genuinely got no idea sorry girl. Back to roommate 1. Me, redacted, is saying she has no idea what happened either. I am actually so confused. Roommate 1. Show me what, RM2, said asterisk asterisk. OOP show RM1 what RM2 said. Roommate 1, thinking face. Redacted, had a group of like 6 people over and they were all pre-gaming. Roommate 2, me, did you have people over today? Roommate 2, yeah, just from like 5 until 8 when we left. Why? Me, redacted, said you were all drinking. Is that what happened to my room? Like was someone drunk and something happened? If that's what happened, can you just tell me? Roommate 2, sorry I didn't know how to tell you. Me, okay well what exactly happened? Cause like what? Roommate 2, I had, redacted, for drinks, Daniel, and Connor were already drinking before they got here, so they were pretty tipsy. At some point they asked me who my roommates were, so I said you, and after I said your name they just started talking about how weird they thought you were and how they were annoying and they don't like you and stuff. You were annoying asterisk. And they were laughing and stuff, so Elle just thought they were joking, but then Connor got up and started walking towards the bedrooms and stuff, and he asked me which one was yours and I told him. And he went in there and it was just quiet for like 30 seconds and then we all just heard stuff smashing off the ground and we went in to see what he was doing. And it was the stuff you sent me in the picture broken on the ground and all the stuff on your dresser shoved off. And it was Daniel that broke your perfume. When we all went in and Daniel saw what Connor had done, he picked up a perfume that had fallen on the ground and just kept banging it against your wall until it broke. And I tried to get them to stop, but they just kept laughing and saying you deserved it. Eventually we all left and went out to a club. Me, are you being fucking serious? I've literally had about one fucking conversation with both of them. Why did you tell him which room was 9? And why did you just let him go in? That's so fucking weird, like what? And then you have the audacity to lie to me when I asked you what happened. If, redacted, didn't tell me you had people over, you literally never would have told me. Do they plan on paying me back for the damage they've caused? Multiple of my things are broken. I genuinely don't give a fuck about whatever excuse you're typing for them. I want everything they've broken either replaced, or the amount of money it makes up altogether. I don't even know if I can go down a legal route with this, but I'm gonna find out. Get me my money, and I'm being fucking serious. Roommate 2, it only happened because they were drunk. They wouldn't have done something like that sober. I don't think they meant for it to get that bad. And I would have told you eventually. Elle just didn't know how to bring it up. Don't take any action yet, please don't go to the police or anything. Me, get me the money, or I'll send you a list of everything that's broken and they can replace it. I don't care how you do it, just fix it. You literally didn't even bother to try and hide it. You just left my with everything broken all over the place. And I don't care that they were drunk, that doesn't change anything whatsoever. Whatever weird fucking thing they have against me doesn't explain any of this. Roommate 2, none of us have the money to replace that stuff. That perfume alone is like 150. I don't even know what to do. Me, your friends came into my room and destroyed my stuff and you're complaining about not being able to replace it? Roommate 2, look, I texted them and said sorry. And they said sorry. Me, if they're that sorry they can say it to my face. Tell them to replace my shit or I'm going further with this whole thing. Roommate 2, okay, just give me a while to figure it out, just don't do anything please. Update. I'll comment this here because it's the most popular comment. I'm leaving to file a police report now. I was going to leave it a bit longer, but people are telling me that is not a good idea, so my boyfriend is going to drive me there now. I'll update whenever I can. Update. Hello everyone. I filed the police report a few hours ago and the police said that they would go and talk to all 3 of them. I had to wait a while before they had any information for me, so that's why it's been a while. So basically Chelsea gave the police a completely different story to the one she gave me. She said that everything she said to me was true apart from the stuff about the perfume. Apparently Daniel did pick up the perfume and started banging it against the wall, but he didn't break it. He wasn't able to break it, so he handed it to Chelsea and asked her to break it instead, and she did. They spoke to the 2 guys and Connor said that Chelsea was the one encouraging them to break my stuff. Apparently she even told them to break my laptop, but they didn't do it. He said that he did get up and go into my room, and Chelsea said to him while he was going in, don't touch anything in there, in a really sarcastic tone apparently, and he took that as a challenge, I guess. Daniel also gave them the same story, that she was the one encouraging them to break my stuff and because they were drunk, they just did it. I hope that's everything and I didn't forget parts. They said they're going to do a follow-up with Chelsea because her story doesn't match Daniel or Connor's story, and once they've followed up with her they'll let me know. I asked the police if they have any idea what they could be charged with and they said possibly criminal trespass, a misdemeanor for the property damage. They would have to pay me back for everything and possibly community service. I plan to talk to the housing department as well about her destroying the stuff in my room and showing the damage. Hopefully something is done about that. Update. Hi. I'll just leave whatever updates I have here. Thank you a lot for the advice support I've been getting. As I said, I'm not very familiar with legal stuff and your comments helped a lot, so I appreciate it. So I have some updates. This will probably be long. The police told me that they were going to have to recall Chelsea since her story didn't match up with the 2 guys. While they were doing that, I went back into our apartment to see if there was any more damage evidence I could use to help get Chelsea evicted, as I was planning on going to the housing department. When I got back to my room, I noticed the wall was damaged. As I said, Daniel and Chelsea both hit my perfume bottle off the wall repeatedly to try and break it, and while they were doing this, they damaged the wall in the process. The paint is chipping off of it and there is noticeable dents. I took multiple pictures of it. Unfortunately, the housing department was not as helpful as I hoped they would be. I showed them the police report and all the text pictures. They basically just said we'll look into it, and they took my phone number. Not much else was said about it. but I'm just going to keep pushing them about it until something happens. Eventually, the police did get back to me. They said that Chelsea basically admitted everything and that she was encouraging the guys to go into my room and break my stuff, but she didn't plan for it to get that bad, and that she feels sorry about it, and that she just broke the perfume because she got caught up in the moment and didn't realize she was doing something wrong. She also blamed it on them being drunk. While we are on the topic of the drinking, they informed me that Chelsea is going to be charged with underage drinking also. Me and Chelsea are both 20 years old. Daniel and Connor are 21, so they won't get charged for it. At the moment she is looking at being charged with criminal trespass, destruction of property, intent to cause harm and underage drinking. Connor is looking at being charged with all of those except the underage drinking. Daniel is only likely being charged with criminal trespass and intent to cause harm because even though he attempted to break my perfume, it wasn't actually him that done it. This could all be subject to change, but this is just what the police told me is likely to happen. They will have to pay me back for the damages caused and are also looking at community service. This is everything I can remember right now. More stuff might come up, but at the moment I'm going to try and keep pushing the whole situation with the housing management. Update. Hello again, another update. I got in touch with the Dean of Students, which many people told me to do as the housing department probably weren't going to be helpful, so thank you for that. He organized a meeting with me. I took a copy of the police report to him and I showed him all of the pictures videos I had taken of my stuff and the damaged wall. Long story short, he said that this type of behavior is unacceptable and that he reprimands every individual who thinks this was okay to do. He asked me if he could make copies of the photos I had, which I obviously allowed him to do. He told me he was going to pull Chelsea for a meeting, where they could address the damages she caused, underage drinking in the building, which was prohibited, and he basically confirmed he was going to evict her and have her pay for the wall damage. He then got into the more psychological side of things and he asked me if Chelsea had ever made me feel unsafe before this incident happened. I told him the truth, that she hadn't made me feel unsafe, but the energy around her has just always been uncomfortable. Chelsea and I have just never gelled as people. She is very loud and extroverted and I am the complete opposite of that, so we just never gelled, but it was never anything personal to me. Those are once again really the only updates I have. The progress with the actual case against the three of them will take a bit longer, but there has at least been progress with the living situation. I am still with my boyfriend and I'm safe. Smiley face. Thank you sincerely again to everyone who has reached out, given me advice. The past few days have been draining, so I appreciate the words. Relevant comments. What perfume was it? It was the Addict perfume by Dior. I got it from my sister as a birthday present a few months ago. Thank you about the jewelry holder. Love. I called my grandmother earlier and she said she already has a new one she can give me, so that's definitely helped me feel better. LOL. Stories number 15. Aita for not having a problem with my dad's family not wanting a relationship with my 3-year-old half-sister. My mom and dad's family hate each other now because when my dad was terminally ill my mom freaked out on him and had to be removed from his hospital room. The stuff I know about that led to all that is my mom cheated on dad and dad found out about it and he refused to forgive her or give his blessing for her to be with someone, and a few weeks after he found out he changed what he was doing with his will and assets and set up a trust fund for me and put his twin in charge of it instead of mom. He added a bunch of his things to the trust too. When mom found out she flipped and that's when she yelled at him. She called my dad selfish, a worthless POS, and told him to drop dead already so she could be free from the role of nurse wife. I heard her and so did my grandparents and dad's twin. The rest of his siblings were somewhere else. But once that incident happened, them and mom fought relentlessly until dad died. Then when he was gone she tried to keep me from them and stopped when I told her I hated her and wished she wasn't my mom. She got upset and asked why I'd say that, and I told her I heard what she called dad and said to him, and I knew she upset him before too. She tried to make things better between us, but I couldn't forgive her for how she acted and for hating dad when she was the one who betrayed him. Her relationship with dad's family doesn't exist anymore and they don't even talk about me now that I'm 17 and can make plans without her. When I was 13 she got married again, and when I was 14 she had my half-sister. Mom's an only child and her parents died before she had me. Her husband doesn't have a relationship with his family. They adopted grandparents from an old person home when my half-sister was a baby, but those people died and my mom decided my dad's family should step in because of me. She said we're siblings and half doesn't matter and they should love my half-sister because she's my family. And she said I should want them to. That I should make them be there for her so she doesn't grow up feeling unwanted. It's been like this for more than a year now. My mom brings it up every time I talk to or see someone in dad's family. When I wouldn't ask them, she showed up at a family day and asked them to include my half-sister and to be her family, so she grew up not feeling so different and distant to me. Dad's family told her they wanted nothing to do with my half-sister and she isn't their family and never will be. Mom expected me to leave with her, but I stayed. Since that happened, my mom has been on my case more and she's asking me if this is the kind of man I want to be. We fought and I said stuff about her and how I still feel about her and how I feel about my half-sister. And I told her I didn't care that my dad's family said no to having a relationship with my half-sister. That I don't care and it's her and her husband's problem to deal with and not mine. She told me I should care because it's my innocent half-sister we're talking about, not her, Mom. And the fight just escalated. Stories number 16. AIO husband didn't feed baby again. I, 23F, am the primary caregiver for our son. I watch him all day until his dad, 25M, gets off work around 6 p.m. I go into work from 7 p.m., 12 and during that time he has to just make sure the baby stays alive during his sleep as the baby's bedtime is at 7. I had a burnout a few weeks ago and knew I couldn't keep this up. Watching him all day, going to work, then watching him all night was killing me, so I had to tell husband he needs to wake up at least once at night to feed the baby. He does. Sometimes, for some reason, if the baby wakes up he will hand him to me while he warms a bottle. I don't do this. If he wakes I leave him in the crib and warm one. I don't see the point of us both being awake, but he will wake me up out of dead sleep and give me our son, then take him back to feed him. The bottle takes 4 minutes to warm. During those few minutes he will lay back in bed and somehow fall asleep so the baby doesn't get feed. He did this again last night for like the 20th time. I have told him that if he cannot put the baby to sleep, 98% he can't, to hand him to me. Baby is now at the age where he prefers me over dad and sometimes will fight sleep for hours until he sees me. I assumed that's what he was doing. He had fed the baby and couldn't put him down, so he gave him to me, but he had not. The baby will fall back asleep on me whether he has eaten or not, but he'll toss and turn and eventually wake back up from the hunger. I sleep terribly when the baby is on me because I'm not a back sleeper and my brain knows the baby is beside me, so it's on panic mode, so I don't roll on top of him. I hate co-sleeping, especially with all of us in bed. The whole point in him waking up to feed the baby is to let me get a few more hours of sleep. I'm not getting that, and now our baby won't settle for sleep again because he's starving and relentless. So me and the kid have been up since 5. This isn't the first time he's done this. He will make bottles and just fall back asleep and I end up having to be the one to do everything. I just don't understand how he can sleep knowing his son is hungry. Tired or not. Like I'm not tired too. I watch his son all day, I clean every day, I cook every day, and then I go to work and have to come back and watch the baby all night. I know parenthood is by definition a lack of sleep, but it's not supposed to be solely on one parent. I'm seriously contemplating this relationship because I have voiced my opinion multiple times on this issue. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, Nor. But what does the father say when you confront him about this? Reply: he was the one who was pushing for himself to wake and help actually, so I figured that was his compromise for it all. But he does apologize and says he doesn't remember falling asleep. Commenter 2, now that he knows he can't stay awake if he hopped back in bed, there is no reason he should be doing anything during those 4 minutes but standing there waiting for the bottle to finish warming up. He's being selfish and hoping you'll just do it yourself. Reply: I tell him this. I don't understand why he can't just stand for 4 minutes. Commenter 3, wake him up every time you get up at night to feed the baby. Make sure he stays awake while you're feeding. If that means turning on the light in the bedroom or feeding the baby in the dark but in bed next to your husband. When the pain he's in is greater than the pain of change, he will change. At the very least he will understand how tired you are. Reply: I will. The crazy thing is just this week he started only waking up twice. He used to wake up 4 to 5 times before. But he wakes at 6 a.m., so meaning I only sleep like 4 hours. If his dad could literally just do one feeding, that's already half the work done. Has OOP's husband been tested for any possible medical conditions that affects his sleep? Reply: I don't think so, but I'm no doctor so I wouldn't know for sure. I'll bring it up, but you're right on the dot with men not liking doctors. When he's sick, in pain, anything of the sort, he will refuse to see one. He does snore and he will like choke and wake himself up sometimes. It's scary to hear. I always think he's going to die or something. I definitely think it's a possibility. He wakes up at 6 a.m. to get ready to leave for work. He gets home around 6 p.m. and I leave for work at 6 and come home around 11:12, so he really only gets a max of 6 hours of sleep because it takes him about 2 to 3 hours to put the baby to bed. Does OOP's husband take any sleep-related medications? Reply, no, but he is a log. He's been like that since I've known him. He didn't budge with our mirror crashed down and shattered a few years ago, and he sleeps through all of his alarms even with the phone beside his head. His sleep does concern me sometimes because one second he's up then the next he's out. Commenter 4, first off, do not CO sleep with the baby, super dangerous. It happens, sure, but it only takes 1 second for the baby to be blue and gone, don't do that ever again. Next step, tell him he is not allowed back in your bed until the baby is fed, end of story. I have triplets and I did night feeding and I never once just handed my kids back. That being said, some dads have a hard time adjusting to the new regime because they didn't carry that baby and it just takes time to stop caring about oneself over another. Don't get resentful, he can do better and you need to tell him as much. Good luck mama. Reply, yes. We don't co-sleep, if he's in the bed one of us is awake or I wait till he's knocked out to transfer him because I can't sleep with him in the bed beside me. I definitely think it's a slow process. I just asked him like 2 weeks ago to start helping and he just got this new job, so it's definitely a balancing thing in my opinion. OOP on her son's age and why it is necessary for him to have his feedings. Reply, 10 months but he has an ostomy bag and needs sodium supplements, so he needs at least 1 feeding at night. He won't drink salt water, or else his electrolytes will drop too low. He wasn't allowed to start solids for a bit being in the NICU so long plus his surgeries afterwards, so he is just now starting to accept solids. It's a work in progress and we clean his mouth after he eats like his dentist advises. Update. Just want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who gave thoughts, opinions, and advice. I realized pretty quickly I wouldn't be able to answer everyone and a lot of the same questions were being asked as well. For starters, my husband missing a feed doesn't hurt his medical condition because I make sure I double the amount before bed, allowed, and I'm always up around 4 to 5 a.m. to give him a feed regardless, so he always gets his sodium supplements. Look up Hirschsprung's disease if you're interested to learn about our baby's condition. Also, I think some people got confused and thought him missing a feed was every night, but it only happens about twice a month, still frustrating when it happens though. Anyways, update starts here. Saturday we had a big discussion about sleep feedings. I asked him why he hands the baby to me and he said he doesn't it because he can't hold him himself while getting milk, mixing supplements in, and keeping him in the crib to cry will wake me up more. He normally will take the baby back 98% of the time. He said he will stop and bring the baby into the living room and let him cry there while he gets everything done. I asked why he falls asleep and he told me that he genuinely does not mean to, and I believe him. A lot of people went straight to calling him awful and a shit dad, but I see this man every day and can promise he is anything but that. He's just lazy. Or so I thought. I brought up sleep apnea because there were tons of people saying to look into it. I asked him to tell me what sleep was like for him and I'll give you the short version. He wakes up constantly because he feels like he loses his breath, heart stops, but he does fall right back asleep so he doesn't mind it too much. He sweats so much he end up cold from being drenched, it's bad. His mouth is always dry and hoarse from his obnoxious snoring, it's god awful. During the day he has micro naps so his head is constantly bobbing at work. He has to roll the windows down with the AC at full blast and music at max so he stays up while driving sometimes. Another thing that I myself have diagnosed him with, so I could be wrong, is sexomnia, look it up. I did this years ago because when we first started dating I noticed at night when we were dead asleep he would initiate intercourse every night. I went along with it, but when we would wake the next morning he would always joke about how I was a wild card at night and couldn't keep my hands off of him. I was baffled and told him I was just following his lead and he too was baffled. He had no memory of anything he did at night to me or himself. He still doesn't know when he does it. Intercourse, fondling, he has no idea. Well, guess what one of the causes for sexomnia is? Sleep apnea. He has done all of these things since I've known him. Also he sticks his arm straight in the air and strokes it while he sleeps. Very creepy, and just want to let you know what I deal with. We came to an agreement, because he fought me on seeing a doctor, that he would have a virtual appointment, with a doctor, and if they advised us to come in we would. Yesterday before he went to work I set up the earliest appointment we could get. No surprise, she heavily advised he come in and start a sleep test with the clinic with all his symptoms including my awkward nighttime stories. Really weird telling a doc your husband is an intercourse sleeper. The arm thing is apparently a self-soothing thing too, by the way. He was on the fence, but she also said they offer a sleep test at home kit and we could do it ourselves. However, I don't know if I trust it. She said it's not as reliable and there could be issues that we wouldn't know about. We have an appointment next week to see a doctor in person about this and we'll decide then, but I will leave it to him as it's his sleep and comfort. The kit is covered by our insurance, but it comes with the risk of being less accurate. We are making a sleep schedule, but knowing he might have a sleep disorder I don't want him waking with the baby. As of now, we agreed I should cut my hours down at work, that way I'm not so tired. I can handle less sleep with less hours worked. I am upset with him because I only knew about his snoring and sweating. I had no idea he had trouble staying up and work or driving, and that's frustrating because what if he had to watch the baby alone one day, or if he hurt someone or himself on the road? We're definitely going to have another conversation about honesty and communication because this issues could have been solved months ago. Thank you for listening, and thank you for telling me to bring up sleep apnea. This literally could be saving my husband's life and our relationship, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, make sure he knows that he can die from untreated sleep apnea. Heart attack and stroke can occur while he's sleep suffocating. Reply, the doctor and I both heavily emphasized this to him. He's worried, but not as worried as I think he should be, but according to him, he's lived the past 10 years like this, so another week or two won't hurt. Hopefully his luck stays up with that mindset. Commenter 2, I hope your husband takes this seriously. He is literally fighting for his life every single night and it's taking a massive toll on his health. It's also creating a safety risk for your baby. And he's gambling with his life and future by delaying diagnosis and treatment. So tell him to drop the stubbornness and do exactly what the doctor recommends as quickly as possible. Reply, he hasn't been to the doctor once since I've known him, and according to his mother the last time she took him he was 15. It is incredibly frustrating. I tell him every other day to see a doctor as he always had some random or concerning pain. Commenter 3, this needs to be a hill you die on. Let him know in no uncertain terms that if he doesn't go in to do a proper sleep study, he can pack his shit and move out. I know it seems extreme, but he is putting his life on the line. He is putting your life on the line every time he drives you, and he is putting your child's life on the line. This cannot be negotiable. Keep in mind, sleep deprivation is a form of torture. He has literally been torturing himself for 10+ years. Reply, yes, once I heard the driving part one knew this wasn't a game anymore. I've already set his appointment and I'm driving him myself to make sure it's done. Also, luckily for us his best friend works at the same job and lives in the same apartment complex as us, so he's offered to drive him to work until his appointment. With all the help and support he's getting right now, if he doesn't keep up his end of the deal I will have to fight him and drag him there myself. Does OOP and her husband have family close by that can help out or be the support system? Reply, my parents aren't too far but not close enough to help at night, they're out of the country at the moment as well. I do not get along with his mother as she has issues with obeying our baby's sleep feeding schedule, so we are low contact with them and only see them to once every 2 weeks. I don't trust help from her, nor do I want it. It will cause me more stress than I already have. It's just us 3 at the moment, but I do believe cutting my work hours will help a lot with my stress and sleep. Commenter 4, I can't believe you agreed to let him shirk his responsibility and you cut your hours at work to make up for it. So now your career will suffer. Holy hell up. He's acting like a child and like he doesn't have any agency at all, and you are falling for this weaponizes incompetence crap. He's let his medical issues affect his family to this degree and still won't see a doctor until you force him to. This story is infuriating to read, not a happy update. He has medical issues, okay. He did nothing to address them for years even when you begged, and still doesn't take responsibility. Sleep test at home for what reason? When you can get a better test at the doctor and they offered it? It's pure laziness and selfishness. If he cared about his family he would do everything he can to make sure he is healthy and present for them. Now your career takes a hit while he can continue to let you do every single thing for him, include manage his health like HES the baby. Reply, the plan was me to quit my job and become a SOM from the beginning. I hate my job, it's physical labor, and I certainly don't love working, especially when it means I can't see my son. He is going to the doctor. He was iffy about whether to do the test at home or at the clinic because of work. It's a new job and he doesn't have the same leeway as his other. But he is going to the doctor. He's going to decide which test is best when he gets there and go with whatever the doctor decides. He didn't know he had an actual issues and just blamed stress. I didn't know either and I never asked him to test for apnea. He gets bad migraines and his side hurts sometimes. Those are the issues I was referring to. But while he's there he has to get a general workup anyways, so we will see if he has any other underlying conditions and he will bring anything else up because he would rather do it all there than make a second appointment. OOP on having babysitting sources for her son. Reply: most babysitters aren't comfortable with handling a baby with special care like an ostomy bag. If it were to fall off they would be responsible for reapplying his dressings and that's a lot to ask for anyone. I enjoy watching my son and already work part-time as it is. We have already discussed how we aren't comfortable with our son being in daycare or having a babysitter. They aren't cheap and it would be more money than it's worth. I don't mind watching my son day-night if I'm not working because I can sleep when he does. As of now my job drains me physically and emotionally. I can barely keep my eyes open after work, but on my days off I have no problems. If I had a job I loved it would be 100% different. Stories number 17. How do I explain to my girlfriend that my autism isn't something I can change? Hiya everyone, I'll cut to the chase. I'm autistic 21M and my girlfriend is neurotypical 22F. We've not been together for long but recently she's been telling me I need to stop using my stimmying toys. For context, I really like tennis balls. I like to squeeze them and roll them in my hands because it helps stim my touch sensory in a nice way, and sometimes when we go for a walk I like to bounce them off the ground and catch them. My girlfriend says I'm childish and need to stop doing it because I'm embarrassing her in public playing with a tennis ball like I do. How do I explain in a way that's calm and to the point that I need my tennis balls to calm and regulate my emotions in a way she won't brush off as childish or self-centered? Consensus. Reddit tells OOP to break up with his girlfriend for name-calling him and telling him he is embarrassing. Update. First off, holy shit. Thank you all for your comments, it means a lot to see this level of engagement and interested in my situation and I'm really grateful for you all. So my girlfriend actually came around shortly after I posted this. I went to the bathroom and when I came back through C was looking at all your comments on the post. I let her read them and she looked up to me and asked to talk about it, so we did. I explained how I use my tennis balls to stim and control my anxiety and focus on us when we're together. She really didn't understand at all and asked if I could use a more subtle thing to stim with so she's not embarrassed when we're out together. I told her no. I've tried hundreds of different things for stimming and tennis balls are one of the few things that actually help me, and that if she's embarrassed that I like fidgeting with a tennis ball that says more about her than it does me. We had a little fight and she started crying asking why I can't just be normal. I told her I have a disorder and if she can't deal with that and what comes with it I'd rather not be with her at all, so we broke up. She sent me some hurtful ableist texts and even left me a voice note screaming that I'm a retard, so I really do feel like I dodged a bullet here thanks to you all. Don't worry, she's blocked and I've sent screenshots of her messages and voicemail she sent me to her friends because they deserve to know their friend sucks. It's epically funny because 2 of her friends have ADD, so I think they'll love to hear what she thinks of people on the spectrum. I'm feeling a little bummed out. Of course, she is the first relationship we've been going out for only 4 months, but it meant a lot to me that I can actually have a relationship with someone. But ultimately a lot of you were right, she wouldn't budge and didn't really care for understanding my autism or me on any deeper level. So that you all for your comments and the support. It's been beautiful to hear so many autistic and neurotypical people come together like this and tell me what I need to hear and make me recognize my worth. Some comments by OOP. I've been trying to think what reason she'd have for being so embarrassed about me using a tennis ball and I can't really think of one besides that's how high school conditioned her to see the world. She was pretty popular and was in, as I'd call it, the cool kid group, whereas I was also popular but because I talked to pretty much everyone in my year and never judged people for their differences, whereas she seemed to be kind of a bully for what I picked up on her stories of her high school experience. I don't know if that's the answer, but I've never cared about fitting in because I'd rather be myself and look strange than blend in by hiding who I am. But that's just my thoughts. Yeah, I will not be masking myself ever. If someone doesn't like the fact I fidget with a tennis ball or that I have autism, that's their issue, not mine. I'm just existing over here. Well, it's in the past for me. No, it hurts right now, but I'll find someone who actually wants to be with me and face the challenges that come with dating an autistic person. Stories number 18. I just turned 18 and my mom is pressuring me to sign Mama Bear legal papers. Location: New Hampshire. USA. I just turned 18 about a month ago, and at one of our family friends' barbecues my mom struck up conversation with the host's brother's wife about my coming of age. She told my mom about something she did when her daughter came of age, where they got these mama bear legal papers notarized, and it gave her the ability to make decisions if her daughter was medically incapacitated. This didn't sound too bad at first, and I wasn't against it since I don't have a bad relationship with my mom and I trust her to make medical decisions in an emergency. However, my mom gave me a folder and told me to get it notarized today without even expecting me to read it, but before I went to go sign it, I flipped through it, and it looks like it gives her the rights to way more things. I called her and asked what it was, and she swears it only has to do with medical decisions if I'm incapacitated, yet I'm seeing sections about my educational records, finances, etc. My mom is now upset with me for not wanting to sign it right away. Does anyone know anything about this company and what the papers do? I'm admittedly a little clueless when it comes to things like this. To be fair, I just turned 18, but I just don't want to sign my right to my own finances and information away. There is also a possibility that I might be left all of my grandfather's money and assets in the near future. My mom and him don't have a good relationship, so this is especially concerning. If anyone has any information, please let me know. Stories number 19. I, 39F, can't see my husband, 42M, the same anymore after his reaction to a very serious issue. How do I handle this? I'm going anonymous for privacy reasons, although I'm not too active on here. But this has been one of the most stressful and confusing moments in my life, and in my marriage. We've never had issues like this. A short backstory for context: husband and I have been married for 13 years. We have a 13Y0M and 2Y0F. When I was pregnant, we decided to hire a nanny. We both work very demanding jobs and wanted our young daughter to have personalized attention at home. This was a serious thing for us. We went through a placement agency and found a perfect fit. A more young girl, 23F at the time, 25F now. She has become like a second daughter. She's so much like our little daughter, sensitive, playful, and very sweet. She also appears younger than what she actually is, and our daughter has taken to calling her Sissy. Our little girl is extremely attached to her, more so than me at times. Things were well for these past 2 years that she's been with us. Because it is summer, our son is at home for most of the days unless he has soccer, piano lessons, or is hanging out with his friends. Our daughter goes to her grandmother's 2 times a week for half the day, and during this time our nanny is free to do whatever she desires. However, if son isn't at lessons or the like, she has to stay at least 15 minutes in the area if he's at home in the neighborhood. The problem didn't start until about a week ago. I noticed our nanny acting a bit strange. She became less talkative, a bit distant, and really only solely spoke to our daughter with warmth. This isn't usual for our relationship, professional but relaxed and open. She lives with us during the weeks when husband and I have travel, late nights, etc. There's a night nanny who takes over most things around 6 p.m. during these times, otherwise she's off at 6. So we've gotten comfortable with each other. It was important to me for it to be like a home to her, because it is her home too when she's there. She lives in a duplex, which is like her own apartment when off duty for her privacy. So I started to become concerned after the week passed, and she was still acting strange. I asked my husband if he noticed anything or had an idea about anything that could have caused her sudden change in behavior, but he was just at a loss than I was. On Saturday, when she was out of the house, her off days are f.m., my son approached me in a very flustered state. He was nervous, appearing about something, and I had a strong feeling it was about what I had been suspecting. I was right in the most unfortunate way. He told me that he had done something wrong. I asked him what. He hesitated for a while before telling me. He told me that a little bit ago, confirmed, about a week ago when this started, when he came back from soccer, he saw our nanny in her room undressing. Baby sister was napping during this time. He said that she saw him after a while, and was frozen for a moment, before telling him to leave and slammed the door. I asked him if he looked away when he saw her, but he said that he wanted to, but he couldn't. I'm not going into more detail. He found her beautiful. She is. I knew he had a crush, but he always kept it under control because he's a respectful boy. That's how we raised him. When I asked him why he decided to tell me now, he said because he felt bad and didn't want the nanny to think he was weird or disgusting, or for her to tell us something that wasn't true. I told him I appreciated him telling me, although I was very upset. I said I would need to speak to his father about what to do next. It made sense then why our nanny's behavior changed. I felt so ashamed. My husband was shocked as well, but his reaction wasn't what I expected. He said that it shouldn't be surprising that he wasn't able to look away, he's only 13, experiencing puberty, she's beautiful etc., but that he wasn't blaming her, but that for both their sakes we should just let the matter go to avoid unnecessary tension in the house. I told him that literally none of that mattered. I understand he's only a child, but that doesn't mean we make excuses for what he did and not address it. That there needed to be a consequence. I suggested for son apologizing to the nanny, which husband thought wasn't the best idea, but first I needed to speak to her. This morning I spoke to her. Her reaction broke my heart. I'm fiercely protective of my children and would defend them to the ends of the earth, but when she told me the reason she didn't tell me was because she didn't think we'd believe her, or that she would have been fired, my heart literally broke. I should have closed the door all the way. I should have heard that he came home, our door chimes when opened. I don't know what to do. I told her that she's safe, absolutely not getting fired, and that our son had admitted. But now she's not comfortable with him, and feels ashamed of it and having feelings of disgust toward him because of him being a child. Although she doesn't nanny him like our daughter, she still was around him for 2 years, driving him places and interacting. I told her that for now, just focus on our daughter, and I would arrange for our son to get to where he needs to go by other means for the time. So this is where I'm at. I don't want this to become a us versus her or anything. My son is not a bad child. I do believe he genuinely feels bad. He's never been disrespectful towards the nanny before, but I am a bit hurt by his actions. It scares me, as he's entering his teenage years. But the main problem is my husband. He completely wants to rug sweep this. Anytime I try to suggest how to repair, he shuts down. This morning he literally told me, "Would you just let it go?" It was like a slap in the face. We're supposed to be a team, parenting our children together. Him as father plays a big role in our son's development through puberty, and I wanted us to be on the same page about this. A consequence. A serious talk. Not rug sweeping. I look at him in the face and am seeing a different man. Why is he acting this way? What about our nanny's feelings? I know that I'm going to have to put my foot down somehow, but I don't want this to seriously impact our marriage. But I have no idea how to approach this with him. Edit, I've been advised by a few people to do this. I want for clarify. The peep in question was not merely a few seconds or 10 to 15 seconds. He stood there for at least a minute and watched her undress all the way down to her underwear. He admitted this. At first it was accidental, but then he kept seeing different parts of her body and was curious to see more. He sounded disgusted when he said this. He's not a bad boy. But it was leering. Which is where the guilt comes from. I avoided getting into detail because I didn't want potential creeps getting pleasure or people imaging an inappropriate situation between the two. My apologies. TLDR, husband's reaction after our son's inappropriate behavior is shocking me. He doesn't want to address the problem and only wants to sweep it under the rug. I don't know how to approach those problems with him. How can I get us on the same page? Actual update, I wanted to give a conclusion to the people who were wondering how this situation would be resolved. Like I said, my main concern was about my husband shutting me down, dismissing my feelings, and neglecting what I felt like were his parental duties as a father. He also told me to just let it go and was intending to sweep this whole issue under the rug, and was against making our son apologize at all. However, as mentioned in a previous post, he did agree later that night to have a chat with me after all. So we did. And I found out some not so flattering things about him after 13 years of marriage. He did apologize for how he shut me down, which I appreciated. But he was still hesitant that anything else needed to be done. I asked him why he believed that. Why he believed that our son shouldn't apologize and if he understood our nanny's feelings. He told me, plainly, that he was having a hard time believing that son really did something like that. That he couldn't really see him as anything but the sweet boy he's always been, even though he's noticed a change in him, entering adolescence. I acknowledged his feelings but ultimately said that this is the reality, this is where we're at, he's going to continue to change, and we need to address it with our son together as parents if we want him to change into the better. And as his father, I would like for him to be a good role model. I told him, again, that son had come to me first with the confession, and I had to basically pry it out of Nanny, who was very distraught. I reminded him of what had happened to me, similar circumstances with being leered at unknowingly while naked, and how it affected me. He knows, because I've told him before, and he was very empathetic. But he said that this was different. I asked how. He said that with me, it was a guy around my age back then, and Nanny shouldn't allow herself to be so affected by such a young boy. I was stunned by this. I asked him if he cared at all about how she was affected. He said that of course he did, but that telling him to do anything other than quite literally, say sorry to your nanny was too much. I couldn't believe how dismissive he was being then. It's not typical of him at all. I made up my mind what I was going to have to do, even against his wishes. I thought of our daughter and our son, and the type of message I want to model for them, especially our little girl, who will be growing up in a world that still has a lot of extreme and shameful views on women, as I saw in some horrible ways on my last post. Before talking to son, I spoke privately to the nanny again and told her about what we were going to do, and if she was comfortable with it. She said she was. I asked her what we could do to help her be more comfortable. She asked about having a few cameras in her duplex. I agreed. I also suggested putting one in the main hallway of our house, where the bedroom doors are. She goes there a lot when she's in the baby's second room, which is near my son's. I also asked her if hiring a personal driver for son would be something she was okay with, until she felt comfortable again. She said it would. I made sure to reiterate to her that her safety and comfort was a priority, and that we were going to have a discussion with him, so we talked to son the following evening. We stressed to him that what he did was very inappropriate, and that he owed Nanny an apology. But I didn't want to make him apologize. I wanted to see what his true feelings were, and his views on certain things. If he'd been influenced at all by something, or someone. I could tell my husband was frustrated with this part. When I asked son how he would feel if he found out a boy had done that to his sister one day, or me. He said he would feel angry. I told him that it had happened to Mom before, and how I felt, without excessive detail. He was surprised, and didn't know how to respond to it. I told him that regardless of Nanny's age, she's a person, a mom's daughter, her parents' baby, his sister's sissy, and that adults aren't immune to the impact of certain behaviors just because they were done by a child. I hope that husband took this to heart too. I then told him how it made the nanny feel. She gave me permission too if I felt it was appropriate. That she loves his sister very very much, but felt for a moment that she couldn't be comfortable anymore in the house. That she had briefly considered taking leave, and was afraid of being fired because of what he might have tried to say happened that didn't. He said that he was afraid that she would make him out to be a creep, so that's why he had said he was afraid of what she might say when he confessed to me. I asked him how he thought his baby sister would feel if her favorite person had suddenly left, because of an intentional action he did. Knowing our sensitive little girl, I knew she would be sad and scared, and this is what he basically said. I was trying to encourage empathy and critical thinking, not directly shame. I believe he took to heart what I said. I told him we want him to apologize. He agreed on writing a letter, per a few people's suggestions. Thank you. After the talk, my husband wanted to talk. He was not happy with how I went about things. He felt as if I was too hard on him, and made an already awkward situation even more awkward. Wasn't the camera and driver enough? I asked him if he felt like not addressing it would make it less awkward, and what exactly I said that was so wrong. He couldn't exactly answer. He just said that after a week or so, he felt as if things would calm down. I basically had to tell him that I was not going to be permissive about this type of behavior, and if he was, then I would continue being hard on him. Nanny read the letter and appreciated it. She spoke to our son and said that she's not upset at him and won't treat him differently, but that she still feels uncomfortable and hurt by what he did. That she hopes that he won't do that to any other girls' women. He told her he was sorry, and she just smiled at him. So that's it. Things between them won't go completely back to how they were before, but Nanny is not holding a grudge. With the new accommodations, I can tell she feels a lot more comfortable, and son has been advised not to speak vulgarly about her to his friends or the like. I checked his photos on his phone too, just to make sure because of a concern nanny had told me, but it seems like husband and I still have some work to do. His views on this topic were quite shocking. He's not rude or dismissive towards the nanny, but I don't really think he was looking at this from a fair viewpoint. I think he's having a hard time accepting that our son is changing, and will continue to change, and with that will come more behavior that he might not be able to believe. But I'm proud that I stood up for myself and my values, and will be on low alert for any other questionable beliefs my husband might show in the future, but I think he is already starting to see what it is I truly mean. Regardless, I will continue to correct any behavior like this, even if I have to do it alone. Thank you, everyone. TLDR, had a discussion with my husband on how to handle the situation without son, and found out some surprising views he held. We went along with speaking to our son and I stressed things to him that husband believed was me being too hard on him. I told him that I would continue to correct our son for inappropriate behavior even if he didn't. Son apologized to nanny, and they are okay. She feels safe with the new accommodations, and I will be on alert for any other questionable views husband might have in the future, especially as our son is growing into a young adult. Thank you for everyone's time. Stories number 20. I don't want my sister-in-law to come to our vacation and now she claims I shamed her. I don't think you can shame someone who is incapable of being ashamed of her actions even after people pointed them out to her. A couple of years ago, my brother met his now wife Susan, 33F, and started bringing her to our events. Our family has a cabin that we use every year for a 1-week family vacation. Normally it used to be our parents, husband and I and my brother, but for the last 2 years Susan also joined us. This year I refuse to go if Susan is present and my parents want me there, so Susan is not invited anymore. On to why I don't want Susan to come with us. The short reply is that she is disgusting. She doesn't have any kind of hygiene and every vacation with her was a nightmare because she can't act like a normal human being. Some examples of what happened until now. She stinks. Plain and simple. How my brother can tolerate her smelling the way she does is beyond my understanding, but all the rest of us have a hard time being in her presence. The reason why she stinks is because she is against deodorant. She uses items that don't belong to her without asking and without informing anyone afterwards. Last year, I have left my and my husband's towel to dry in the sun after we had our morning showers. Around noon I wanted to take the towel back to our room and noticed it was soaking wet, which couldn't be possible since it literally stayed in the sun for half a day. When I asked if anyone knows what happened to our towel or why it was wet, Susan said she had a shower and used it. It's a miracle she showers, but I don't share my towels with anyone except of my husband, so it landed right to the bin. She acted offended that I threw it out and said there's no need to act like she has the plague. I told her there is also no need to use my towel and I don't care what she has or not, it's not okay to use things that don't belong to you no matter what. She doesn't clean the toilet after using it, so all of us found period blood and poop displayed when we needed to use the bathroom. She also doesn't wrap her tampons when throwing them away in the bin. Her reason every time is I forgot. I have seen her multiple times drinking juice, milk directly from the bottle. She also forgets we don't want to share saliva with her and that this habit is disgusting. She uses her hands to mix ingredients without washing them before. She was making a salad and mixed everything together in the bowl with her dirty hands. When we talked to my brother about everything, he always made excuses for her. His main justifications are that she has autism and that she grew up poor, so we need to be understanding of her. I am not. Poverty is not an excuse to stink and be dirty. Poverty and autism are not excuses to not clean the toilet after you use it when you have a brush there for this exact purpose. I guess my brother told her the reasons why she is not invited and she confronted me, crying that I am shaming her. So I told her if by this age she is incapable of feeling ashamed by her own behavior, there's a very slim chance I or anyone else can ever shame her in any way. Update: I don't want my sister-in-law to come to our vacation and now she claims I shamed her. I don't think you can shame someone who is incapable of being ashamed of her actions even after people pointed them out to her. Thank you guys for all your feedback for my last post. After yesterday I was left with mixed feelings. On one hand I am happy that there are still normal people around who value being clean and sanitary. But on the other hand I was sad to see how many nasty people we have around us. Someone said very well that shame should once again start being a thing, because maybe by feeling ashamed some people will start acting normally again and stop demanding the rest of the society to put up with nasty habits. As an adult to go on the internet and claim that a 33 years old female must be showed and explained basic things like cleaning a toilet seat after getting it dirty is unreal. Just a personal idea, but I will share it here. One may not learn from home everything they need to know or all the social standards, but each and every one of us is responsible to educate ourselves if that education did not come in our early years. Meaning your parents may not have explained to you why it's important to have a good hygiene, but as an adult you have all the means to learn it yourself. Those who say my parents did not teach me this and this is why I don't know are just lazy and ignorant people. If you have a phone and internet access to waste time on writing nonsense on Reddit, you can clearly use those tools to Google it or watch tutorials on how to deal with your period, your sanitary products, or how to clean poop after yourself. That being said, my family and I are leaving tomorrow to go to the cabin. My brother will join us but Susan will not. He will most probably give us more details the following days, but I guess he is also tired of his wife and her inability to act like a normal human being. It's sad, and he is also to blame for how things turned out for not putting a stop to his wife's nasty habits. But well, for the first time in 2 years we will enjoy our family vacation and my parents will have both his kids present with no stress, not being disgusted or tired of cleaning after an adult woman. For those who seemed unable to understand why my husband is still invited and my brother's wife is not, the answer is because my husband is not a pig and because my husband did not leave period blood on the toilet seat, making my father storm out of the house to go pee in his own yard because he was too disgusted to use his own bathroom from his own cabin. Hope this clears that absurd question, but if you need more graphic descriptions, I can provide. Also, for those who will start crying in a corner how unfair it is that Susan will be excluded, tough life bro, society will exclude you if you are unable to follow basic, decent cues because people don't owe you anything. And no, this does not come from a place of hate as immature people want to believe. It comes from a place of valuing boundaries and comfort. And one last thing. I promise this trip I am not throwing any towel away since this was such a triggering topic for many of you. Keep calm. The towels are safe with me, I swear. Stories number 21. My neighbor called the cops on me for shots fired. But there's more. I have been hearing a pounding sound in my apartment for about a month. I can't tell where it's coming from, but it wakes me up from a dead sleep. I haven't had a full night's sleep since the beginning of the year because of this. I searched the neighborhood thinking it might be a construction site, made a formal complaint to the city, and left a note for my landlord. No one could help me. It's like I was hearing things. One night I was going to bed and the sound re-emerged. Losing my sanity, I banged as hard as I could on the wall and floor and shouted, "What is that fucking sound?" About 3 minutes later I was being held at gunpoint by the police in my boxers, completely in shock. Turns out my neighbor called shots fired on me. Once they searched my house and realized I had not weapons and couldn't possibly fire a gun that didn't exist, they asked me what was going on. I told them what I told you and they took me, in handcuffs, to the psych ward for evaluation. After about 7 hours of giving blood, urine and convincing a psychologist that I am not a threat to society, they released me. When I got home the sound was in full force. Now that I am thinking I am crazy and hearing things, I decide to gather as much evidence as possible before making accusations. Last night the noise was so loud that I could tell it was coming from the neighbor who called the cops on me. Now I think she might have done it on purpose to retaliate against me. My question, am I overreacting or do I have a legit grievance that needs to be addressed? What are my options? Edit, Denver, Colorado. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Do you have any recordings of the sound? Reply. I did take a recording last night and I think because of the low frequency of the sound, my phone didn't do it justice. On the recording it sounds like white noise with a slight pulsing sound in the background. I played it for my sister and she said she could barely hear anything, but when she played it to my younger nephew he said he could hear what sounds like a washing machine in the background, which is exactly how I have described the sound. Commenter 2. Can you put the sound file into Audacity and remove the sound of white noise to get just the low frequency sound separated? Also, what age are you and do you have any history of mental illness in your family? It doesn't really sound like that's the case, but it's best to look at all possibilities. Reply. I'll try that. I keep telling people that the mic in your phone is designed to pick up voices, not low-frequency pounding noises, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I definitely have mental health issues in my family, but mostly just depression and anxiety. The idea that it is mental is absolutely on the table for me. I will not deny it. However, up until this point all of my friends, coworkers and family would tell you that other than some depression issues I am of sound mind. Commenter 3. Have you been able to record any of these noises? If not, it's entirely possible you're experiencing auditory hallucinations, which can be a symptom of several health issues. If your neighbor, upstairs, next door, is hearing the same thing and you can both record them, your next step is probably the two of you reaching out to your landlord. Edit 2. The responses so far have basically reaffirmed what I was dreading. I am going to have my sister come over and listen for the sound. If she tells me she can't hear it while I can, I'm going in for counseling. Here's hoping she hears it. Edit 3. Thanks to everyone who is helping me figure this out. Pretty much everyone is on the same boat right now, so I won't be responding much. This weekend my sister and my best buddy are going to stay with me and see if they hear it. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Sorry, our legal advice. This turned into more of a psychological thing, but I hope to return with an update on if anything comes of this legally for sure. I secretly am hoping that my neighbor is running a meth ring and my super hearing saved the day, but we shall see. Update. As much as I would love to tell you differently, the sound is unfortunately not real. I know there was a lot of speculation as to the validity of the sound, and to be honest, I am still not 100% sure there wasn't some sort of triggering sound to begin with. However, the police, my neighbor, a local business I accused of making the sound, a local construction area I accused, my sister, and my best buddy couldn't hear the sound when I very definitely could. As it turns out, binge drinking almost every weekend for the entirety of my 20s and early 30s caused my liver enzymes to be elevated. In some cases, people with elevated liver enzymes experience mental side effects, especially if you have an undiagnosed anxiety disorder like I just found out. I am one of those people. I essentially drank myself into psychosis and made my anxiety worse. I have a scheduled appointment with a counselor and will be put on some sort of meds for sure. Thanks to everyone who had suggestions of what the sound might be. And sorry, our legal advice for not being about legal stuff. I truly felt like I had been swatted, but it turns out I'm just a little messed up in the head, and it was probably for the better. Edit. If only you guys could see the comments coming in. Your faith in humanity would be restored. Lots of love from total strangers and people who have experienced the same sort of thing. Don't be afraid to talk about mental illness, people. We all have down times, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Isolating yourself and ignoring it is literally the worst thing you can do. It took 5 cops with guns pointed at my chest to learn that lesson. Don't be like me. Stories number 22. Aita for not catering to my nephew's pickiness. My sister-in-law is staying with us for a few months while they move, and it's been tough. I work from home while she's a stay-at-home mom, so she's home with me and her kids. Honestly, I don't mind them here much. My kid loves her cousins, and it's nice having someone to talk to at home during the day, but the tough part is cooking for them. Not only am I cooking for the double the amount I'm used to, I also have to figure out what to make for them. Usually, I cook one dish and we all eat it. No complaints or choice otherwise, because that's how I grew up and I never saw a problem with it. I don't force feed, just set the bowl in front of them and they eat as much as they want. It's great. My daughter eats everything and rarely expresses she doesn't like something. As a 3-year-old, she does occasionally LOL. My sister-in-law's kids are very picky. They don't like tomato sauce, they don't like veggies, they don't like melted cheese, they don't like mayo on their burger, but sandwich is fine, they don't like soggy cereal. I can go on and on. Every day, I try to make something they like. I made pancakes. My sister-in-law is like, "Oh, what recipe did you use?" My oldest only eats a specific recipe. When he walks in, she goes over the top to explain to this 6-year-old that this is a different recipe and he'll have to try it. He refuses to try it until she forces him to take a bite, and he throws a fit because he doesn't like it. The rest of the kids are eating quietly at the table. Any meal I make, I'm already expecting her to say something about it. Yesterday, I made sliders hoping that would be fine. Nope, she asked me to make half of them specific to the older child's taste. No cheese or sauce. Just bread and meat. He still didn't eat it, because he didn't know about the taste. Anyway, I've been already cooking with way less vegetables than I usually do and I'm at my wit's end. But I refuse to cook mac and cheese boxes and no sauce pizza every night. My freezer and pantry are all filled with processed food and snacks that we usually don't have because her kids don't snack on fruits and veggies, they snack on chips and donuts. I wish I was kidding, but I haven't seen her kids consume any fruit or veggies for the past few days. So, AITA for not catering to their pickiness. I'm trying to keep balanced meals for my own family and I refuse to change that just because they don't want to eat it. Stories number 23. I fear my toddler might be intellectually disabled. He's 3.5-year-old and still hasn't started speaking. He is not diagnosed with this, but I'm sure he's considered verbally delayed. We are planning to take him to doctor for that alone. Other things that are worrying me: he doesn't respond to his name, he won't turn his head if you call his name. Because he's nonverbal, if he wants something, he'll just point to it. But sometimes, lately more often than not, he can't express himself, and it makes him aggressive, I think. We are first-time parents, so we're not sure if this is actually expected behavior in toddlers, but he bites me or tries to pull my hair when he gets upset or can't express himself. Sometimes he tries to pull his own hair and it hurts my heart when he does that. It seems like not only he can't talk, but he also can't understand the simple verbal questions that are being asked to him. Like, if I ask him something like "Are you happy?" he won't even nod his head. He laughs, cries, and show all his emotions just fine, so it's not because he's shy. Or if I ask of him if he wants some candy, again he won't nod or shake his head. Only when I physically point him the candy, or whatever I'm offering, he will respond, by nodding or shaking his head. I usually can get his attention by clapping my hands, but sometimes he won't even react to that and gets totally lost in his own world. However, there are positives that gives me a little bit of hope. He can make eye connection just fine and is also very bubbly when he's not upset. He likes to play pretend and doesn't seem to have sensory issues. I think these kinda rule out autism, however they don't rule out ID. Also, it can't be his hearing because he passed his newborn hearing test and he reacts to noises, well, most of time. If it's an ordinary everyday noise he might ignore, but he will always react noises like thunder or siren noise, by turning his head or by curiously looking around, but that's the thing, he doesn't seem to be even remotely scared of loud noises like many other toddlers do. It just rubs me the wrong way. I know he's still young, but I feel like his sense of danger is very underdeveloped. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Please make an appointment with your pediatrician ASAP so that they can review with you and start to get him the right support in place. My brother was very speech delayed, which made him frustrated, and speech therapy not only helped him speak but gave him confidence and peace that he was able to be understood. Reply, that's our plan. We will take him to a pediatrician for his speech issues first. We also definitely want to get him evaluated for autism. Unfortunately the waiting list is very long. But we have to because he's showing some clear signs. This is all so scary for us. Commenter 2, you say he hasn't been diagnosed with anything, and that you are planning to make a doctor's appointment for him. When was the last time this kid saw a doctor? I would think he would have raised red flags with the doctor ages ago and would already be well on the way to a diagnosis of some sort already. Reply, 6 months ago, he was sick and we did mention our concerns about his delayed speech, but we've been told we need to make a different appointment for this. We were actually planning to take him to a pediatrician for his speech since he was like 2.5-year-old, but my mom kept reassuring me saying that me and all my brothers were late speakers as well and he will be fine too. Clearly he's plenty smart and we shouldn't hurry because they diagnose every little thing nowadays. I'm not putting all the blame on my mom. We should have been more responsible, but honestly she got into our head. Commenter 3, hi, I'm an SLP. I definitely think making an appointment with the doctor to discuss your concerns is a good idea. Also, get his hearing checked again. Hearing can change after birth due to ear infections and other reasons, so very important to rule that out. It sounds like he is communicating via gestures like pointing and vocalizations like yelling and grunting. Have you tried baby sign language or other signs? Model a sign for more and all done when eating and he may start using that. It won't hinder speaking, it will just take some of the pressure for him and help him communicate. Keep modeling language to him, narrating your day, what he is seeing and doing. Read books together. Good luck. Reply, I was teaching him baby sign language and he was actually quite responsive. He even picked up some signs, but we have been told, by my mom, that this is hurtful for his speech and his delay will get even worse if I keep signing with him. I wish I never listened to her and didn't stop signing, but unfortunately I did. We are young parents. I was a minor when I got pregnant with my son. I'm 18, almost 19 now. We're living with my mom so she gets a big say in how we raise our son. Commenter 4, can you please respond to the question regarding his pediatrician? When was the last time he was seen by his pediatrician? How often do you go, and what kind of screening tests do they do when he goes? Reply, he gets vaccinated but except that he only gets to see his pediatrician when he's sick, which was 6 months ago. OOP explains why her son wasn't going to his regular visits. Reply, I was a minor and still in high school when I got pregnant with him, and back then my mom was handling his appointments. I now handle most of his appointments, but I also go to college, and my boyfriend works, so sometimes neither of us is available, and it's been hard to get him regular visits. I am genuinely so sorry. We should have done better. Unfortunately, I can't change the past, but I want the best for my son and I will do better. Update, it was hearing loss. About a week ago, I posted here about my 3.5-year-old. So many of you encouraged me to take action, thank you, truly. We booked a pediatrician appointment the very next day. We took him to a new pediatrician. She was so kind and validating. She agreed he's severely verbally delayed and immediately referred us to a pediatric audiologist and a speech-language pathologist. Luckily, we were able to get an audiology appointment just a few days later. Turns out he has severe bilateral hearing loss. I couldn't believe it. I cried the whole way home. I told them he passed his newborn hearing test and he reacts to noises, that most of the time, I can get his attention by clapping my hands. We were told that his hearing loss was likely progressive and he might have been feeling the vibrations and reacting to that, especially if I was clapping my hands while standing right behind him, which I was. The other noises I reported him reacting to are all considered very high dB noises, which can still be heard and are felt within his hearing loss range, but he isn't hearing normal everyday speech. He will need a hearing device. We were told that hearing aids can only offer him very limited benefit and minimal access to sound, but they won't be enough. The audiologist and EN said he's a strong candidate for cochlear implants and would benefit most from getting them as soon as possible. He's been fitted with temporary hearing aids, just so he can get some sound input and get used to wearing something on his ear while we prepare for CI evaluation. I feel so scared. This is something that requires surgery. I feel like we are moving so quickly, and that feels wrong, but the specialists told us we should not lose any more time. His brain is in a critical period for language learning. We've also started the speech therapy. Our SLP is lovely and encouraging. We've had just one appointment so far, but I can already tell she will be great for my son. She encouraged us to teach him sign, because even if he ends up getting implants, 99% he will still need sign language when he takes them off. I can't even describe how guilty I feel now. I feel like a terrible, terrible mom. How could I not notice something this severe earlier? I feel like crying anytime I think, what if he never learns to speak because we didn't intervene earlier? I feel like I failed him big time. Thank you all so much for urging me to take that first step. You guys gave me a reality check, and I needed that. Additional information from OOP. Reply, this is going to be very personal, but there are a few things I want to share with you guys. When I got pregnant with him, I was a freshman in HS and I wasn't mentally prepared to be a mother. I love him so much. He's my everything. My entire world. I can't imagine a world without him. I pray to God every day for blessing me with him. Having said that, when I first found out that I was pregnant, I didn't feel ready to give birth, I didn't feel ready to be a mom, but my mom was, and still is, anti-abortion. She convinced me to give birth and told me she would take care of him, which she did. I still fed him, changed his diapers, and played with him when I was at home, but she handled doctor appointments, tantrums, took care of him whenever he got sick, took care of him whenever I was in school, which was most of the time, and even changed her job and started working night shifts just so she could care for him while I was in school. She promised she would keep doing that until I graduated college, but after I turned 18, so about 9 months ago, I wanted to, and began to, get more involved in his life. Before that, I was there, but not really there. I will never forgive myself for not doing more for him, but from now on, I will do everything I can to be the mother he deserves. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, do not feel bad. You were failed by your old pediatrician. That's what happened with my daughter too. Ignored and blown off because she passed her newborn screenings, her ear infections aren't that bad. Medical gaslighting is a horrible thing, especially when our kids suffer for it. I'm so glad you listened to us speaking out about hearing loss. Being deaf or hard of hearing isn't the end of the world, either. Especially today. Accessibility is so much better now. You might also consider doing some supplemental sign language. I love baby signing time. It did wonders for communicating the gaps for my eldest. Forgive yourself, and next time you feel ignored or blown off about a medical issue, go full Karen. You got this, and your baby will be fine now that help is coming. Surgery is scary, especially for little kids, but this one is important. Reply, thank you so much for your support. Being deaf or hard of hearing isn't the end of the world, either. Especially today. Accessibility is so much better now. It would be a lie if I said I don't feel scared because I do, but also I've actually been trying to educate myself about this, and I found out there's a big deaf ho community, and some don't even consider themselves disabled. Don't get me wrong, I won't force my baby one way or the other. Speech therapy, ASL, cochlear implants, I'll give him all the options, and when he grows up, he can choose whether he identifies as deaf or deaf, and whether he prefers to use signed communication, his voice, or both. Commenter 2, I'm sorry, that is really scary. You did the opposite of failing him. It seems like your son is in great hands and you are now on the road to communicating with him better. Commenter 3, you are not a terrible mother. You spoke up when concerned. You were if ignored. So you kept speaking up and you found someone who would listen. Now you are getting the help you have been fight for. You are a good mother for fighting for your son. Stories number 24. My partner accused me of putting our daughter's health in jeopardy and I no longer want to be with him. My 9-week-old daughter has pretty bad reflux. She's on medication for it. She is breastfed but also formula fed for us to administer the medication. My partner would give the medication in every bottle whereas I would give a dose of the medication in every other bottle. She's allowed a maximum of 6 sachets a day, within 24 hours. She has around 5 bottles so technically could have a sachet in every bottle. Here comes the catch, the medication makes her notoriously constipated. When she does poo, it's super thick and causes a bellyache. At some point over the last couple of weeks, her reflux got worse and she would regurgitate while sitting up. It just gets worse as time goes on. She then starts refusing bottles. Flat out will not feed from them but will feed completely fine off me, breastfeeding. This goes on for a while so she's not getting any medication. I call the DR and my HV as I'm worried. She eventually gets back to the bottles but only about a week after refusing them. It turns out that she got a sore throat and was associating the bottles with pain. Me and my partner was talking about this earlier which eventually turned into an argument where he stated I put our daughter in jeopardy, meaning I caused her harm by giving her less medication than the maximum dose. He has said some pretty nasty things in the past such as me and my daughter make him miserable and other similar stuff. I love this man with my whole heart but he's flicked a switch. We have been together nearly 14 years and I truly thought we were each other's soul mates but after today, something has changed in me. I have bent over backwards for my daughter. I almost died having her and for him to accuse me of putting her in jeopardy has changed the way I look at him. He's acting like nothing has happened but I'm not sure if I want to be with him anymore. It has completely changed the way I see him. For reference there is no information on how many sachets to give, it just states, as directed. Edit, I didn't expect this post to get so much attention, thank you. I wrote it and went to bed. I appreciate all the comments and advice that people have wrote and will be taking on board suggestions regarding my daughter's reflux. Stories number 25. I spent 15 years getting attached to a person who doesn't exist. My whole life I've been friends with 2 brothers, Loud Brother and Quiet Brother. The 2 do everything together, like TV twins. But Loud Brother leads and Quiet Brother follows. As a kid I felt like I never really knew Quiet Brother at all, because Loud Brother never stopped talking and joking around, and Quiet Brother seemed happy enough following him around like a shadow, never really sharing much at all. But occasionally, there were moments where Loud Brother would say something dumb, and my eyes and Quiet Brother's would meet. I could feel he thought it was dumb too. Or we'd be walking and I'd notice he avoided stepping on cracks and I'd join in. Small, quiet moments like these formed the basis of our relationship. Over time, I started letting my imagination fill in the gaps. I thought maybe when Loud Brother goes out and Quiet Brother's home alone, he sings at the top of his lungs to get all the repressed noise out of his system. Maybe he avoids cracks because he's on a streak. Maybe he has a lot of weird little streaks like that and he tracks them all in the diary I saw on his bedside table that one time. Where did the shell next to the diary come from? Did someone give it to him? Did he find it when we went to the beach, and I hadn't noticed? Who TF was this boy? NGL, I got kind of obsessed with actually getting to know him. As we got older and the two stopped living together, Quiet Brother built a life of his own, obviously, which I tried to understand through other people's Facebook photos. But because when we met up it was always the three of us, I wasn't part of that life. I wanted to hang out with him one-on-one just so I could see what he was like without the weird sibling dynamic. But could never find an excuse. It'd be weird. Loud Brother would wonder why he was excluded. Would Quiet Brother even show up? Loud Brother got married the other day. The perfect opportunity. The two always vacationed together, but a honeymoon was different. Once Loud Brother was gone, I invited Quiet Brother out for drinks, one-on-one. And guess what? Quiet Brother sucks. Quiet Brother complains about how long it takes a bartender to get drinks, loud enough that he can hear him. He complains about how sticky the tables are, barely. He tells the most boring stories ever about his boring job. I ask him about the design on his shirt and he's like, oh yeah, it was on special. He doesn't care what's on it. He acts as though he's never looked at it before. I ask if he's watching anything, reading anything, working on anything, listening to anything, etc., etc. Nothing. In between the empty, lifeless conversation, he's still quiet. But now it's awkward, because Loud Brother isn't there to fill the silence. The one joke he does make to fill the silence is low-key racist. I think back to the stalking I did of his and his friends' FBs. His bare-bones profile, my inability to figure out anything about him from anything going on in any photo. Bro was never doing anything, he was just there. Did I imagine him stepping over the cracks? Was it a coincidence? Oh my god, we were in high school, the diary was a schoolbook. That's why it was familiar. He's happy living in his brother's shadow because he is a shadow. Some things are better left to the imagination. Stories number 26. Aita for not letting my ex-husband and one of his future step-kids come inside. Our custody arrangement is for each of us to pick the kids up on our day during our 2-hour pickup window. He arrived at the house, and I already had the boys ready. I saw his car pull into the driveway on my camera, so the boys were already halfway to the door when my ex knocks. I open the door, and he is holding the hand of a 4-year-old. He asks to come in and says his fiance's son needs to use the bathroom. I told him I don't want him to come inside, because I don't feel comfortable with him in my house. He has a history of snooping through my things. He asked me to take his future stepson to the bathroom, and I said I was uncomfortable with the situation. He said his stepson needed to pee. I suggested the McDonald's up the road. He said my bathroom would be way cleaner than a McDonald's. At this point my 11-year-old started pestering his dad to stop so they could leave. My ex said your brother needs to use the bathroom. My son said I'll take him. My ex said no, your mother would rather he pee his pants. We'll go, and hopefully we'll get to the McDonald's in time. My ex and the boys left. He messaged me afterwards saying I was cruel to a child to punish him and that's not okay. He said I made us both look bad in front of our kids and should be embarrassed of my actions. I have been fighting with him for so long my perspective is screwed up. Was I in the wrong? Stories number 27. Aita for moving out without saying anything. I, 23F, currently live with my parents. I have been dating my BF, 24M, for almost a year now and we have known each other for many years. Recently him and I started talking about the future and when we would like to move in together. Originally we were talking about waiting another year so I can finish college. However, after my mom caught wind of him and I having these conversations, she lost her mind. She told me that I shouldn't even be thinking about a future with my boyfriend at this point in my life, that him and I needed to back off of our relationship. Then she went as far as telling me that I'm not allowed to see him more than once a week for a couple hours and that he will no longer be allowed over at the house anymore, and it's her house so I'll respect that. My mom is very controlling and manipulative and I have spent most of my life doing whatever she wanted to make my life easier. However, I am ready to move out and my mom would physically stop me if I tried to leave. But her and my dad are going to some convention this weekend and my BF and I plan on moving me out while they are gone. So am I the asshole for packing up my shit and leaving without saying anything? Aita for moving out without saying anything. I, 23F, currently live with my parents. I have been dating my BF, 24M, for almost a year now and we have known each other for many years. Recently him and I started talking about the future and when we would like to move in together. Originally we were talking about waiting another year so I can finish college. However, after my mom caught wind of him and I having these conversations, she lost her mind. She told me that I shouldn't even be thinking about a future with my boyfriend at this point in my life, that him and I needed to back off of our relationship. Then she went as far as telling me that I'm not allowed to see him more than once a week for a couple hours and that he will no longer be allowed over at the house anymore, and it's her house so I'll respect that. My mom is very controlling and manipulative and I have spent most of my life doing whatever she wanted to make my life easier. However, I am ready to move out and my mom would physically stop me if I tried to leave. But her and my dad are going to some convention this weekend and my BF and I plan on moving me out while they are gone. So am I the asshole for packing up my shit and leaving without saying anything? Update to Aita for moving out without telling my parents. So my boyfriend and I have officially decided to go through with getting me out of my parents' house. I have had my job saving boxes for me for the week and I've been storing them at his house. My parents leave town tomorrow morning and tomorrow night after work and my sister goes to bed. My BF and I will start packing everything up. None of my family has any clue that my BF and I signed and paid for the lease on a really nice apartment about 20 minutes away from my parents. Both mine and my BF therapist are telling both of us it's in my best interest to leave if I want to be able to grow as a person. My friends say that my mom is controlling and I'm 23 and need to get on with my life. Truthfully, while I agree with all of this, I feel guilty. I don't plan on cutting off all contact and everything is signed and paid for, so there's no going back now. Am I irrational for feeling guilty about all of this? Or am I a jerk for leaving without saying anything? Update, for Aita for moving out without telling my parents. My BF and I have officially moved in together. My mom is extremely angry. She called me and yelled at me for 30 minutes and told me that I was alone and that I had no one to turn to. She told me that everything is always about me and that she would be calling my therapist because clearly I must have lied if my therapist was telling me to leave her, and my dad ate repossessing my truck even though I am paying for it because it's in my dad's name. They say me having it is a liability for them. My mom called me yesterday telling me she was worried that I may be living with a sociopath. She said she spoke to my therapist and she told her that she didn't tell me to leave. My mom then called me and asked me if her and my dad could come pick me up and talk to me. They claimed that my BF has manipulated me into cutting off my family when he has actually done the exact opposite. Through this process, my BF has actually been encouraging me to reach out and even said that my family was welcome to come over. He even said that if they wanted him to leave the house when they come see me, then he will do so because he doesn't want to keep me from my parents. My mom has reached out to other family members and spoke to them. I am not aware of what she said to them, but they sent me a message telling me they didn't wish to get involved. My mom has made not one but 2 Facebook posts telling everyone how I have abandoned my sister 27F, and left her to die. She has gone as far as telling everyone my BF is abusing me, which is a lie. She even said in her most recent post that she was going no contact and asked everyone else to do the same because if they didn't they would be supporting an abuser. FYI, this is not me whining and crying about my choices. I am fully aware that these are the consequences of my actions and my choices, and I made my bed and have to lie in it. I'm not asking for pity. The Reddit users asked for an update, so I am providing one. Stories number 28. My M32 wife, F28, told me she is bi and wants to explore for a year. What can I do to stop her from doing this? My wife and I have been married for 4 years. She has never said anything about being attracted to other women. Last week she sat me down and told me she is experiencing being attracted to women and would like to explore this. She said she would only do this for a year to get it out of her system. I'm not comfortable with this and am not sure how to handle this. I told her I didn't want her to do this, but she said she needed to or would otherwise start to resent me. I'm at a loss for how to handle this. She is the love of my life and I don't know that I want her sleeping with women. If you want to cheer me up, please send puppy or dog pics. Stories number 29. Why are my eyes so dilated? 2 pictures of OP's eye, one showing dilation and one without. Is this normal? Woke up today and I honestly can't tell you whether they were as dilated as this or not. In the morning as I wasn't really paying attention, but by the evening, as I was in the bathroom, I noticed how freaking dark my eyes were and how huge my pupils are. The only thing I've been feeling have just been headaches. What do I do? I also attached a pic of my eyes, normal, a picture taken not too long ago. Also sorry if this isn't the best sub to put it in. Added comments. Commenter. The combination of headaches and dilated pupils is very concerning. Please see a doctor ASAP. Reply. I didn't know this was that urgent, my local GP is closed and I can't afford anything ATM. I might try and wait it out because there's not much I can do, but my eyesight is getting worse, but if it gets super bad I don't know what I'll do. Commenter 2. It's not worth losing your vision or worse over. I would consider going to the emergency room ASAP and figure out how to pay later. Have you hit your head recently? Update. I'm alive thanks to y'all. July 10th, 2025. Shortly after everyone was telling me to phone 999, I decided to ring 111 and the lady immediately sent an ambulance over that picked me up and took me to the nearest hospital. They quickly gave me an MRI or CT scan, I'm not sure which one, sorry, and a few minutes passed and suddenly a load of people were rushing in. Turned out I had a blood clot in my brain that was pushing onto a nerve which made my eyes like that. They quickly put me on blood thinners and I'm currently still in the hospital and will be for a few days, they said. The doctor said if I had called 111 any later, I probably would have had a stroke, and since I was alone there was a very real chance I would have possibly died. I just wanted to thank y'all as I genuinely was planning to sleep this off. I don't know whether I still would be here if it weren't for you all screaming at me to go to the ER. Thank you for all you guys do. My parents weren't thrilled after I told them I wasn't planning on going to the ER, until everyone on Reddit told me so. Update. Just popping in again to update you guys, and to thank everyone sending kind messages. I can't answer each one but I have read them all, genuinely thank you so much. You all are so sweet. Now with the update, I had high levels of homocysteine, around 24, I don't know what the unit of measurement is, I just know that it was 24, and deficiencies with a few vitamins, mainly one called folic acid and B6. I also had high levels of estrogen even though I don't take any contraceptives or anything, but we are pretty sure it was caused by fenugreek tea, which I drank often. So if anyone reading this is drinking fenugreek tea or anything fenugreek, please be careful. We'll definitely have to stop drinking that. He said this combination is what likely caused the blood clot to form. He said I will most likely have some damage to the nerve, meaning my eyes will just react slower to light changes or my eye might be a little more droopier, but overall I'm so grateful to be walking away with super minor things. I could have easily got permanent brain damage. I will now be on supplements and blood thinners for a few months. There's a possibility I might have to take BT for the rest of my life, but I will take that over paralysis any day. I also realized how stupid I was, because I'm located in the UK and always thought that if you call an ambulance, you had to pay a fee like in America. I've never been in a situation where I've had to call 999, 111 for myself or someone else, so this was just my assumption. I was under the impression that general healthcare and the ER was free, just the ambulance wasn't, that's why I was so hesitant to call at first. You should have seen my face when I googled how much the ambulance costs in the UK only to see free. I also learned what an aneurysm is, which is freaking me out so much because what do you mean you can just have a headache and then never wake up again? I'm just thankful I didn't have that because I would have been dead long before this post was even made. Overall I have learned a lot of new things in this whole experience and it still doesn't really feel real, but I'm very grateful to still be here. Thank you guys. Stories number 30. Aita for ruining my sister's wedding by leaving early and calling out the groom's racist comments. Hi, it's currently 12:24 a.m. here in America, and I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Waffle House because my phone is still blowing up. So, here we go. I, 24F, just left my sister Jasmine's, 28F, wedding early, and apparently, I'm now the villain of the year. For some background, my family is Blasian, dad is Japanese, mom is Bahamian, both amazing, and we all live in the States. Jasmine just married into a family that makes Get Out feel like a documentary. Let's start with the groom, let's call him Grant, because of course that's his name. Grant is the kind of guy who thinks I don't see color as a personality trait. He's white, rich, has that calls every Asian woman exotic energy, and has made several questionable comments over the years. Example. Last Thanksgiving, he told my dad he looks like he does sushi commercials. My dad just blinked at him like he was a roach that learned how to talk. Then there's the MIL, who I swear has been in a years-long competition to make Jasmine feel lucky to be included in their family. She once called our family colorful, with tone. The FIL just looks tired all the time. You can tell he's been putting up with his wife and son's BS since Reagan was in office. The only one I halfway respect is the groom's sister, who's currently 6 months pregnant and dead silent through all this chaos. She side-eyed her brother during his speech and muttered, "Jesus, take the mic." So I know she gets it. Anyway, the wedding. Everything was fine during the ceremony. Jasmine looked beautiful. Our mom cried. I was holding it together, until the reception, where Grant gave a funny toast about how Jasmine tamed him and how he's never dated a spicy mix before. Direct quote, "Spicy mix. Like she's a damn curry plate." Everyone laughed. Including Jasmine. Like, a full-on belly laugh. My jaw was on the floor. I turned to my dad, and he had the blank expression of a man mentally floating away from this timeline. I got up to get some air, and when I came back, Grant's mother walked up to me and said, "I kid you not, don't worry, sweetie. You'll find a young man who appreciates your uniqueness." She even gave me that white woman pity smile. I just blinked and said, "I'm gay, but thanks," and walked away. Apparently, that was rude. I ended up leaving early. On my way out, I told Jasmine that her new in-laws and husband are very racist and need a wake-up call before someone punches them in the face. Now I'm public enemy number 1. She texted me saying I embarrassed her in front of Grant's family, and my cousin just sent a screenshot from the family group chat where Jasmine's calling me dramatic and selfish. My mom texted me saying she understands why I left but wishes I hadn't said anything until afterward. My dad. He just sent me a gif of Kermit sipping tea. So, Reddit, Aita for not playing nice with people who think racism is just dinner party banter. Or should I have just smiled, toasted, and ignore the fact my sister is self-sabotaging? Edit. I'm not writing this to make myself look better or worse, I'm writing this so you all can get a clearer idea of what's actually going on, and to give you the full picture. The examples I originally shared were some of the lighter things Grant has said to me. For those asking, why didn't you say anything before this? Or saying, why wait until the wedding to speak up? I have, many times. Here are just a few examples. Example 1, the first time I met Grant, I was 16. Jasmine was 20 and had just started dating him. We met up at some retro diner near her campus for lunch. Grant looked me dead in the face and said, "Wow, you're like, half, hard R N-word, half, anti-Chinese slur, right? That's wild." For context, I'm not Chinese. Not even remotely. My dad literally had to stand up and walk away from the table. Jasmine just laughed nervously and said, "He doesn't mean it like that." And made me drop it. I was a child, and she let that slide. Example 2, when I got into college, Grant made a crack at Christmas dinner about how I'd probably get hired super fast because companies love to tick off the Asian box and the gay box these days. He said it with a big smile, like he was being supportive. Jasmine told me to stop being so sensitive and said he was just jealous of me. Example 3, 2 years ago, at a family barbecue, Grant met my girlfriend, Afro-Latina, stunning, and far too classy for this nonsense. He asked if we ever argue over who's more oppressed, then followed it up with, "You're doing a great job proving gays can be spicy too." I told Jasmine that wasn't just inappropriate, it was dangerous energy. She rolled her eyes and said, "He's just bad at jokes. You know he's not actually racist." So yeah. I've said something. I've lived it. She just never cared enough to actually listen. Hope that clears things up. Stories number 31. Aita for planning to kick out my aunt, 35F, and her 4 kids after she dropped the protective order for them, just a week after escaping an attempted murder. I, 23F, got a call last Tuesday saying my aunt, 35F, and her 4 kids, 8M, 7M, 4F, and 2M, were on their way to me from 4 hours away. Her boyfriend of 11 years had just tried to kill her and the kids. I let them into my home. I fed them, clothed them, gave them beds. We called our side of the family, not her abusers, and everyone gave her full support. I took 2 days off work, got her a lawyer, helped her build her case, made sure she added important evidence to her order of protection, and drove her everywhere she needed to go. I took the kids out, bought them food, baked with them, and got her connected with a local agency that's ready to pay her first and last month's rent and cover housing until she gets on her feet. We live in Minnesota. We have great government and social support services. My extended family has been gathering money to help her. I've offered to help her move, pack her things, go to court with her, sign the kids up for school, and even babysit overnight when she finds work. I also miss preparing for an important interview for a grant I need to afford dental hygiene school, but thankfully I was able to reschedule. I deep cleaned her car, and because her ex has been circling my apartment looking for her, I even gave her my underground parking spot. I've talked her down from going back to him over 10 times, but just a few hours ago, she told me she only got the protective order for herself, not for the kids, and that I should stay out of it because she's got it handled. This man held a knife to her throat and said he was going to kill her and the kids, while they were right there in the room. He's beaten her so badly he was bleeding all over the apartment while the kids were there. He's jobless, an addict, and dangerous. And what I'm telling you is only a tiny fraction of what he's done, but I'm tired. I've done everything. She can't keep wasting my time and endangering these kids. Aita for being ready to kick her out. Edit 1, my whole family is involved and on her side, we're currently saving up money for her. Edit 2, tonight, I plan on talking to her again. If she doesn't go through with filing the full protective order for the kids, I'm going to airdrop all the photos and videos off her phone secretly, so there's at least some record. And therefore when she goes back to him, I will call CPS, even though I know doing that will permanently destroy our relationship and make my whole family turn against me. Update, my entire family, including extended relatives, has agreed that if she goes back to him, CPS will be called immediately. Update 2, I just kicked her out. Turns out she still wants to fix things with him. She's literally the dumbest person I've ever met. I swear, I'm never helping someone this delusional again. She's leaving in the morning, and I'm blocking her. My aunts and uncle will handle the CPS situation from here, I genuinely don't have the time or energy for it anymore. Now she's trying to make me the villain, saying I forced her to take things to court. Meanwhile, the order of protection didn't even make it to the judge because she told the attorney to drop it. This might sound harsh, but I genuinely believe this: a woman in an abusive relationship without children is a victim, no question. But the moment she allows her children to be abused too, she stops being just a victim. At that point, she becomes part of the problem. Stories number 32. As a foreigner that moved to the US via a fiancé visa, I'm losing my shit after 2.5 years. For context, I come from a developing country, but I have experienced life in Western Europe, specifically worked in Germany for 6 months, also visited some Nordic countries as well, and as someone growing up in a developing country, you really appreciate the life quality that countries like Germany, Denmark and Sweden offer to their citizens. Coming to the US, knowing that it is a wealthy country, I naively had expectations that it might be somewhat similar to those countries, not the same but similar, or at least better than the country I grew up in. After 2.5 years living here, I have to admit, I am seriously thinking of moving back to my home country. Where do I even begin? Maybe with what triggered me to post this. Today, my wife and I took our infant for a nice afternoon walk like we do often. As we were about to arrive home, crossing the street on an intersection, halfway through the crosswalk, a big SUV just swerves and makes a turn, dodging out kid's stroller by a couple feet and just speeds off. It was getting dark and they drove off so fast that we couldn't get the license plate. We were enraged, so much so that I quickly grabbed my car keys to follow that car and confront them, but it was too late already. The car was nowhere to be seen. Anyway, that just got me thinking how that is only one of many incidents I see every week in traffic, that lead me to thinking how easy it is to get a driver's license here and people do not go through more rigorous testing, etc. Then I just kept spiraling into all the things that I find so frankly outright bad in this country, and how I am genuinely afraid about the safety and future of my family. My wife is a teacher, and the stories she tells me about the education system make me seriously question if I want our kid to go to school. There's just so many things I can just rant about, which I'm sure most of you also experience on a daily basis, but my goodness, I never have thought that I would consider leaving the United States of America, the land of possibilities, to go back to my developing country where I won't even have half of the luxuries that I enjoy here. Rant over, I guess. Thanks for reading and be safe out there. Stories number 33. Aita, for refusing to let my grandpa's gardener take over the house. Hey, comfort level podcast, this has been brewing in me for a while, and I finally decided it's time to spill. You were my one most listened to podcast on Spotify Wrapped last year, so obviously I trust you with this unhinged timeline from my life, and me questioning whether or not I am, in fact, the asshole. All names have been changed. I'm using a throwaway account because I may or may not be deeply embarrassed by the feral behavior I'm about to confess. I know this is a kind community, but please be kind, or I will, in fact, vomit from overthinking. Joking. Mostly. I, 28F, wasn't super close with my grandparents growing up. But when my grandmother passed away suddenly, it became painfully obvious that my grandfather was struggling, especially with, well, basic functioning. Picture a Danny DeVito-shaped man with Elvis hair, box-dyed black, of course, who has asked more than once how many Tylenol he should take for a headache. He was completely lost, so I offered to help out once a week. He's in his mid-80s but still works during the day. He likes to stay busy and moving, which made it easy for me to come in the mornings or whenever I wanted. He also pays me, which is a huge help financially. I handled the laundry, cleaned floors, changed sheets, reorganized, decluttered, you name it. He told me I could do whatever I wanted with the space. My grandma, who had been a stay-at-home spouse, had collected a lot of stuff over the years. He actually encouraged me to move furniture and make changes to freshen up the house, and honestly, it felt good. Therapeutic, even. I never really had a relationship with my grandfather before, but we started bonding. I'd go over in the morning, clean, start dinner, and wait for him and my parents for our weekly family dinner. It was sweet and calm and felt like something we all needed. Then came Janet. Janet, mid-60s F, was originally hired to pull weeds in the garden. She was about 15 years younger than my grandfather and gave off big laugh, lavender oil energy, quirky, earthy, overly sweet. We thought it was nice that he had company during the day when we couldn't be there. And honestly, at first her energy was endearing. Then she started sticking around after her shifts. At first, she'd join us before dinner to say hi to my parents and catch up. No big deal. But my grandfather was clearly smitten. After a week or so he practically dragged her to the table to join us for dinner with a glass of wine in hand, grinning ear to ear. Then it became routine for her to join us, always saying the same line, "Oh, this looks delish." Then it would be every morning. I'd walk in to find her already there, not in the garden but in the house. I'd find her brewing coffee, reading the newspaper like she lived there, already comfortable. Then she started staying the night. Then several nights. Then most nights, I'd find her wearing my grandma's old bathrobe and helping with the decluttering, digging through drawers and cabinets because he asked her to. Sometimes I wouldn't even know she was there until I would walk in because she started borrowing my grandma's old car because hers was in the shop. She had her own apartment, allegedly, but it started feeling like she was basically living there full-time within a few months. She had picked her own bathroom and a bedroom for her to get ready. She would even close the doors like it was her personal space and would say, "Don't worry about cleaning my rooms. I do that myself." She filled the closets with her clothes. She brought in trinkets from her own place to make it feel more like hers. Oh, and my grandfather gave her a credit card for household needs, but I often saw grocery bags in her car that I'm 99% sure went to her apartment. Still, I kept my cool. She made my grandfather happy and was staying out of my way, until she wasn't. She started hovering when I was cleaning. Her comments were casual at first. "What product are you using on the floors?" Or, "Oh, you do the cleaning like that? You should try this way." It even got to a point where she was texting me. My grandfather went to Florida for a few weeks and asked me to house sit. During that time, she texted me constantly. Things I'd already been doing for the past year. Suddenly it was all reminders and tips and don't forgets. It got under my skin. Then one day she said, "Your grandfather told me he doesn't like how much you've changed the house. He said it doesn't feel like his anymore. He didn't want to hurt your feelings, so he asked me to tell you." What? I felt awful. Anybody who knows him, knows he is not the confrontational type and avoids anything uncomfortable, so this could very well be on brand for him. Out of guilt, I stopped rearranging furniture and just stuck to basic cleaning. But then, weird stuff started happening. I'd leave, come back the next week, and things would be different. Picture frames turned. Chairs slightly moved. At first, I thought it was my aunt or someone else in the family. We all have keys. So I'd quietly put things back because I didn't want the blame on me. Then it'd happen again. Eventually, Janet admitted it. She'd been moving everything, and claimed my grandfather was helping her do it. Then she started getting bolder. For instance, she started hiding furniture she didn't like. She removed 2 antique armchairs that belonged to my great-grandmother and hid them in the basement. She took down photos of my grandmother and family members she didn't like and stuffed them into cupboards in between towels. She even took all the window screens off the windows because they ruined the aesthetic and hid them from me because I love opening the windows on my days there for fresh air. One time she even said I was ironing wrong and left a note to let her do it instead because my grandfather would prefer it. But the final straw. She removed all of my great-grandfather's original paintings, including several of my grandmother that he'd done himself, from the walls of what she had now dubbed her office, and stashed them in the cold, damp cellar. As an artist, I was livid. Not only were they emotionally valuable to me and my family, but they're pieces that need to be stored properly to avoid damage. That's when I confronted my grandfather directly. And his response? He begged me not to quit despite my obvious discomfort. Told me Janet wasn't replacing me. That he wanted me there. Classic avoidant grandparent energy, keeping everyone calm but solving nothing. And me? I didn't want to cause a scene. I have awful anxiety around conflict and sudden changes. So I decided to stay. So Aita for still being there, still cleaning, and maybe getting a little petty later on. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. I genuinely appreciate it, and there is so much more to this story. I'm happy to spill more if anyone's interested. Since so many people were invested, which honestly shocked and touched me, I wanted to share the next part of the story. I'm still pretty new to Reddit and wasn't sure how updates are supposed to work or whether I should edit the original post, so I'm posting this as a follow-up instead. Update Aita for refusing to let my grandpa's gardener take over the house. TLDR of the original, my grandfather hired a woman named Janet to help in his garden, and now she's slowly taking over his house, gaslighting the family, and may or may not be trying to become the next Mrs. DeVito Elvis. Before I dive into the next part of the story, I just want to take a moment to genuinely thank everyone who's followed along, left kind comments, offered advice, or even voiced concerns and frustrations. I've read every reply, and while some have been tough to read, I understand where many of you are coming from. That said, I'd like to clarify a few things, because this story, and my role in it, can easily be misunderstood without the full context. First off, I am one of many grandchildren. My grandfather has 3 adult children, several in-laws, 8 grandkids, and an extended family that includes multiple siblings, 4 of whom live nearby. I'm not the sole caretaker, nor am I the person who makes decisions about his life. I've never claimed to be. I'm just the one who happened to be there the most consistently, and that visibility sometimes makes it feel like I'm more in charge than I actually am. Also, as I mentioned in my first submission, my grandfather is not a helpless man. He's incredibly sharp, fiercely independent, and very capable of doing what he wants, when he wants. He still works full-time, drives himself, and is very sassy when someone underestimates him. But when it comes to things like housework, laundry, cleaning, organizing, those were always handled by my grandmother. After she passed, he admitted he had no interest in learning and preferred someone he trusted to take care of it. That's where I came in, once a week, as part of a routine he requested. Lastly, and this is important, the first post was only the beginning of this whole situation. I've seen a few comments suggesting I'm to blame for letting Janet in or for not doing enough to remove her, but that's simply not how this dynamic works. I can only control what I can. I'm doing my best in a situation where, quite frankly, I don't have a lot of power. I'm not here to be the family savior. I'm here because I care, because I noticed something wasn't right, and because I'm trying to protect someone I love without creating even more chaos in an already fragile environment. Thanks for hearing me out. Now, on to the next part. When we left off, she had just removed my great-grandfather's paintings from the walls and stashed them in the cold, damp cellar because she didn't like the way they looked in her new office. That's when I had enough and confronted my grandfather. But, classic grandpa move, he dodged conflict by giving everyone what they wanted to hear. She's not replacing you, I want you both around, let's all just get along. So I stayed. Not because I'm passive, but because I was worried, and I had no idea how far this woman was willing to go. But things were already getting worse. Janet wasn't just freeloading. She was getting paid. A lot. My grandfather technically hired her for gardening, and like me, she was supposed to log her own hours. But I found her notebook one day left out on the kitchen counter. Let's just say she's got hustle. She was billing him for things like organizing the fridge, there's barely anything in there, he either eats out or we bring meals, laundry, her own, meal prep, literally microwaving soup, running errands, with his credit card, tending the garden. I saw her sipping wine by the pool, tanning and scrolling on her phone. She was logging 8-hour days. Multiple times a week. Even on days I was there, watching her do absolutely nothing. And then she started actively undoing the work I was doing. She'd tell my grandfather I was doing things wrong. That I was too young to understand proper cleaning. She'd follow behind me and correct things. She even started making up new house rules, saying my grandfather wanted them, like not moving a certain chair, or not using certain cleaning products. She even went as far to call my mom, who had been dodging her calls at this point, to cry and whine to her how I shouldn't be there. At this point, we have had multiple meetings with my grandfather, one-on-one, with my parents. The message was not getting any clearer and even more frustrating. I would tell my grandfather everything that's happening, show him the proof, express how I'm not comfortable and how it's affecting me. He always would respond the same way. He would respond how he would think we want him to respond. He'd agree, say it was awful, tell me to tell her to go to hell and that he'll talk to her. We even had meetings with her and made a new agreement, which was, I would clean on my scheduled days. She wouldn't be there when I was. No one would touch the furniture. It worked, for about 3 weeks. Then she started pushing again, showing up when I arrived, sneaking around. She even started leaving me notes. On cabinets. In drawers. Near the laundry. Always in spots she knew I'd see, and my grandfather wouldn't. Why do you insist on moving this chair when you know I use it every day? Do not touch the furniture. You are damaging everything. Where is, insert item. What is wrong with you? So guess what? I went right back to moving things. This is when I hit my breaking point. While she and my grandfather were away on a month-long vacation, funded entirely by him, I was asked to house sit. And what I walked into made my blood run cold. She had moved almost all of the furniture in the house in ways that made no sense. Taken 4 out of the 8 dining room chairs and placed them against the wall in the sunroom. Taken an armchair and put it near the front door. Removed garbage bins and replaced them with large ceramic garden pots. Removed all the curtains, stuffed them in drawers, and bent curtain rods, leaving holes in the walls. Removed all of the family photos of the family members that she disliked. It felt like she was trying to erase us all from the house. I called my mom, sobbing. She came over, helped me put everything we could back in place, and tried to fix the damage. Some items were lost or ruined. This for me was the last straw, but I literally had weeks of them gone to build up my frustration. I'm known as quite the prankster in my family, and I'm begging all the commenters to be nice to me. I know what I did next wasn't mature or nice, but I was literally at my last nerve. So I decided to mess with her in every petty way possible, in a way that she would never be able to actually pin on me. I moved all of her clothing items into different random drawers. Took 1 sock from each pair. Poured boiling water on her indoor plants. Scratched the good DVDs and left all the bad ones from her collection. Dumped out most of her bathroom essentials so only a little was left. Moved the bookmarks out of each of her books to different pages. Moved everything in her room slightly, just enough for her to notice they'd been touched. Moved all of the furniture back to their original spots. Anything that was slightly inconvenient for her, I did it. She was gone. So I made it known, this house is not yours. Amidst my revenge chaos, I also went through her things only to discover documents she had hidden, financial info, receipts, sensitive paperwork, and saved copies. Nothing like the will that many of you have mentioned. My grandfather is very wealthy and has a team of lawyers where they handle all of his things, and the will has been done years before any of this, but bank statements and info on how much my grandfather has that she was snooping, so I took those and decided my next course of action. I decided to include my aunt. My aunt, we'll call her Kim, didn't like Janet and was suspicious of her from the beginning. After hearing about the billing, the constant notes, and the strange power dynamics, we decided to do a little undercover work. We did a background check on Janet. Without sharing too many personal details, let's just say what she found was horrifying. Janet had a criminal record. She and her ex-husband had been involved in a large-scale fraud case that involved millions of dollars. Her name was on court documents. Her ex-husband had been charged. She'd been acquitted, but it was clear she wasn't exactly innocent since her signature and name were all over the documents. This was the proof we needed that all of the worry was very much needed and we needed to come up with a plan quick. There's a lot more to this story, including what we did with the background check info, how my grandfather reacted, and how this whole situation nearly imploded our family dynamic. But I'll stop here for now, because I know these posts are already getting long and wild enough to qualify as a Netflix docuseries. Thank you again for sticking with me. If you're still curious, I'll post more soon. Final update: Aita, for refusing to let my grandpa's gardener take over the house. TLDR of the original, my grandfather hired a woman named Janet to help in his garden, and now she's slowly taking over his house, gaslighting the family, and may or may not be trying to become the next Mrs. DeVito Elvis. High comfort level pod and comforters. Here is the last update, LOL. I needed the night to think about how crazy this has all been with the demands to know what happens next. I've been a huge listener to the podcast for a while now and decided to submit my story because I thought it would be so fun to hear Maddie, Sam, Brandon, and SJ talk about this crazy thing that happened as well as submit for everyone to read. I'd like to also say that this all went down a while ago. I've always thought about submitting my story when all of this happened, but I was super paranoid that someone would find it, so I waited to share. The craziness has since come and gone, but revisiting it feels like waking up from a fever dream. Still, I decided to include all of it even though it's long because some of y'all are stressing me out and seemed convinced I was orchestrating this like some emotionally exhausted mastermind. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. But you deserve the full story anyway. Some of you will love the tea. Some of you may hate the actual outcome, so I'm sorry, LOL. Leaving off on them going on vacation. My grandfather suddenly decided he was bored and suddenly wanted to come home a week early, despite Janet's whining to come home. My aunt, her children, and my parents knew that Janet's actions when she saw all the changes we made when they got home would most likely set her off. We had all the information on from her criminal background and all we had to do was wait to talk to him. When they got back, I heard from my cousins that Janet never mentioned my interior design adjustments. Instead, she loudly complained about the house being a disaster, and was mainly furious that I let a steak, she never told me about, rot in the garage fridge. AKA the beer fridge. My grandfather has 4 fridges, one for food, one for beer, one for carbonated drinks, and one for wine alcohol. She knew I wouldn't have checked that spot, and didn't leave a note. By this point, I was done. I couldn't quit entirely because my family needed me there to keep an eye on things, and honestly I didn't want to. And at this point she was unaware of what we knew and we wanted to have a family meeting and talk to him about this. But guys, my grandfather is the king of the right time, right place, and we can't force him to do anything he doesn't want to do, so we had to wait for an opportunity. So I decided to text Janet directly. I told her I didn't think she was good for my grandfather and that I didn't trust her intentions. She didn't know I had discovered her criminal background. I made it clear that she wasn't going to scare me off because my grandfather wanted me there, and then I blocked her number and waited for shit to hit the fan. My first day back cleaning, when they got home, I expected to see her car in the driveway. When I walked in, she left me alone for less than 5 minutes before she started following me around the house and cornering me in an attempt to scare me off, calling me names and stating I need mental help because I'm dysfunctional. So while she was yelling, I decided to sneakily make a phone call to my dad, who was with my grandfather and aunt at the time, so they could hear the verbal abuse of her following me around. Hearing this, my grandfather decided to rush to the house to defuse the situation. I left out the door while Janet ran to call him so I could talk to my dad and aunt to come too. My grandfather was the first to arrive. Janet and her predictable self, as soon as she saw him, immediately started the poor me act, but what she didn't expect was my Aunt Kim and my dad showing up. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. We sat down together for what turned into a tense and heated confrontation. Words quickly became nasty. Janet called my aunt and me names and accused us of bullying her. At one point, she even crossed the line by saying, "Your mom, my grandmother, is dead. You have to move on and grow up," in a voice very similar to a child throwing a tantrum, and my grandfather not saying anything. The conversation covered everything. From her behavior in the house and the furniture to finally, the fraud case from her past. Immediately Janet whined, "See? I told you they knew, y'all." To our shock, my grandfather admitted that he already knew about her criminal background. All he could say was she was acquitted, cleared, but her signature was on multiple documents as proof, and her husband did get charged. So I doubt whatever she told him is the truth. He kept repeating that he wants her here. I'm going to reiterate to everyone. My grandfather is a grown man and in charge of his life. We could not at this time do anything but provide support and make the environment difficult for Janet to worm her way in. In the end, my grandfather made it clear that he still wanted Janet in his life, but he also wanted my support and presence in the house. It was a frustrating compromise, but we managed to set some boundaries. I would continue cleaning on my scheduled days, Janet would not be there or leave before I got there. Janet also had to return the credit card, no longer use my grandmother's vehicle, and no one would touch the furniture. This uneasy truce lasted only a few weeks like I guessed. Janet had an uncanny ability to stir the pot and couldn't leave things alone. She started by not being there at all, and then she started pushing it by being at the house when I arrived and then leaving when I did show up. She would either rush out the door when my back was turned to sneak out and drive away or conveniently stay busy in the garden so our paths wouldn't cross. But, one thing was starting, it looked like the ongoing fighting, drama, and tension were clearly making my grandfather miserable. As I mentioned before, he doesn't really form attachments or care much about people as long as his needs are being met. I honestly don't think he even liked Janet that much, aside from the fact that she resembled my grandmother slightly in the face or that she was willing to spend multiple nights a week at the house with him. It seemed to me like she had wormed her way in by playing into his irrational fear of sleeping in bed alone, and he was too socially awkward to look for someone new. But over time, it became obvious that he was becoming more miserable around her. The way he spoke about her or treated her started to shift in a much more negative direction when she wasn't around, and when she was around, he would lose his patience often catch an attitude with her. Janet wouldn't say much when he would do this, but it was clear it was affecting her as well and whatever she was trying to plan. I think the final straw for my grandfather was Janet's daughter's wedding. They decided to do a destination wedding, and without confiding in my grandfather she booked the best room at the hotel, and most expensive and apparently the only room left available. To which ended up making her incredibly mad because that meant she had to pay for it herself. Around the time of Janet's daughter's wedding, she was gone for a few weeks, my grandfather was starting to get a little flirty with an old friend from his home country. She works at his business with regular contact. We'll call his friend, Rachel. I have known Rachel since I was born, and I always thought she'd be a much better match for my grandfather than Janet or even his own wife. They just had this chemistry. They grew up together, shared similar interests, and Rachel knew how to handle him in ways that others couldn't. She secretly told me she thought about asking him out but didn't want to move too quickly out of respect for his wife. I encouraged Rachel to ask him out, even though she was hesitant at first. She knew about Janet and didn't want to get involved in that mess, but reluctantly, she agreed. Well, take a grandfather new to the dating scene, terrible with handling confrontation and not wanting to deal with high emotional situations. So now, my grandfather seems to be in the middle of a love triangle without even realizing it. Now when I write this, please keep in mind that weeks are flying by. We all told him that if he truly is done with Janet that he needs to end it, and all we'd get back is the typical yeah. Janet has taken a back seat, oblivious to the fact that another woman is involved. The weather wasn't amazing during this time, so she wasn't at the house often, and without my grandfather full on inviting her over, she left him and the house alone, or would go during the day, find out what his night plans were, which were busy out to dinner without an invite for her to tag along. She'd go home to her apartment. Rachel had become the new roommate as well. Again, they've been friends since childhood, so the comfortability was there. My cousins and I have already considered her an extended grandmother, so her presence at the house wasn't uncomfortable, and my grandfather loved being able to talk to her in their birth-given language and her cooked meals that reminded him of home, so she was the center of his attention. But, she also was amazing because there were clear boundaries. She lived with her son and grandkids, so they were taking it slow. Rachel, knowing everything about Janet, made it explicitly clear that she did not feel comfortable being in the house with all of Janet's things after a while. She finally gave my grandfather an ultimatum, but him and his ability to deflect and avoid any situation is honestly impressive. Janet at this point had been texting him non-stop, leaving voicemail after voicemail and getting suspicious. She even went as far as even waiting at the house for him these past few weeks. I'm honestly surprised the two women haven't run into each other yet at this point, but my grandfather's avoidant tendencies were bound to backfire eventually, until it actually did. Rachel was at the house, making dinner while we were all at work, when Janet decided to come to the house before my grandfather showed up to talk. Imagine her surprise walking in and finding Rachel in the kitchen making pasta. Immediately Janet asks Rachel who she is, and Rachel, knowing exactly who Janet was, says sassily, "I'm the girlfriend. Why are you in his house without being invited?" Shit hit the fan. Janet immediately starts throwing things and what Rachel says pterodactyl screaming. Apparently she called her sister for backup, and we all arrived with Rachel outside and freaked out because they, yes, both of them, were throwing things at her. Inside we find Janet and her sister packing as much as they could in anger. Janet whipped her head up when seeing my grandfather, calling him weak, a two-timer, you name it. While she was yelling, her overstuffed suitcase fell down the stairs and burst open. Lingerie. Personal items. Everything spilled out in front of the entire family. It was mortifying. She was screaming, packing, crying, and stuffing her belongings into a torn suitcase all at once. At this point the cops were called and they had to escort her out of the house. But not before my aunt asks for the garage and gate door opener, which was whipped directly at my grandfather's head. Yes, we did tell the police about Janet and what we thought with her plans, but other than holding on to some useless bank statements from years before, some petty notes for me, and my spy skills capturing some of her freakouts and the meetings on, they couldn't do much or prove much. And yes, we considered restraining orders, but my grandfather said no, and that he doubts that at this point, she'll do anything. And he was right. The only time she reached out was months after because she left some things. So my aunt and I packed up the last of her stuff, including her DVD collection, which out of petty drama I decided to leave a nice scratch on all of them, and for some reason her Christmas tree and decorations, which made no sense. The man has at least 4 unused trees in boxes with boxes upon boxes of decorations. We had her address and asked one of my grandfather's delivery employees to take it there. He told us she wasn't home, so he brought them up to her apartment and left them by the door. And that was it. The last I heard, Janet moved to be closer to her family. Also, as an update from after years later, my grandfather is still great, happy, healthy, and believe it or not, living the single life, lol.